the problem is that so many people are benefiting from these lodges. So when you have child traffickers, for example, right? So they get paid huge amounts of money to steal those children and provide and deliver them to those sick individuals. So that's the kind of thing, which we need to stop.
Thank you for being with me in this moment. Very explosive content coming your way. I have an interview with the Magna Carta sisters, Mandy and Angie, and we speak to Dr. Alex Ling, whose father was a Freemason and a sex occultist magician. And he tells us about his life, and he goes deep into these secret society stories. I just wanted to also say to anyone that's watching this, if you're concerned that you've ever had a Freemason in your bloodline, or if you're not even too sure, but you've got repetitive problems, you feel like you're slightly cursed, you've got consistent illnesses that you're recognizing being handed down, there's a chance that there's been a Freemason in your bloodline. And I highly, highly advise reading a book called Unmasking Freemasonry by Selwyn Stevens, and specifically searching for the bolt cutter prayer. That's the reason I'm doing this video before you're about to watch what you're about to watch. We can actively change the karma of what these people have done to our bloodlines. So search for the bolt cutter prayer, and you can change the words to suit you. So instead of saying I'm praying to Jesus, I would say I'm praying to the mystic law, to the universe, to my higher self, to my angels, my archangels, whatever it is that works for you. But get involved. I can't even tell you how many people I've shared this prayer with, and I've seen within 24 hours major shifts within their bloodline, within their family, within their health. Unmasking Freemasonry, Selwyn Stevens, the bolt cutter prayer. Anyway, I hope you're about to enjoy this conversation. I was hooked for 3 hours straight. Listen up. Big love. Indigo, 5 AM Creatives. Well, I guess we're back, right? 31st of August. It's a big full moon today. Alex, just thank you so much for coming back to continue this conversation about your father, about your experiences. I've had so many DMs and messages from people from the first call, just mind blown. And I think one of the most powerful things that we're doing here is just revealing what Freemasonry is and how affected the sons, the daughters, the wives of these Freemasons have been. So I just want to say personally, thank you, because it takes courage to do what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's needed because these kind of secret societies have been working pretty much through centuries, if not for actually some of them hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So, and being shielded by all sorts of different societies and protected as well.
Yeah.
And they have caused such damage, not only to people who are affected, like the families, but also to other people who were trying to expose them. So they're quite ruthless when it comes to protecting their own kind.
Yeah.
The bird.
So, the bird. So that's Jack. Yes, Jack or bird, as we call her. So she's a rescue. I have to say this quickly. She has a deformed feet, so she wouldn't be. She wouldn't survive outside. They would just kill her. But I found her when she was just a fledgling. So she's with me for 1.5 years, and she's
wow.
So there you go. That is a little moment of fame.
Oh, she's gorgeous. We'll have to get her in a med bed then, sort of thing.
I do hydro with her every day, so I massage her feet under some warm water just to see if I get some movement back. And she's doing really well, but unfortunately she can't perch, so she can't hold on to things, but she can fly a lot, so which is great.
Wow.
By the looks of it, fantastic. Oh,
yes.
Anyway,
so, where do we start?
Yeah, so the first time, Alex, obviously you what I couldn't believe, to be honest, incredible. The story, your father, and obviously you didn't have much to do as a child, but found out in later years his involvement, and we spoke about you being at school and everything else. But what was the thing that I thought we could probably touch upon today, and that is the artifacts. Yeah. These artifacts that your mum and dad traveled the world obviously which we can only assume for ritual. Maybe we could touch on that, Alex, and pick up where we left off.
Yes, yeah, I can tell you a little bit about it. My parents also were quite involved with a company which is quite well known. It's called Siemens AG, which is an electronics company.
Yeah.
So, and they have supported a lot of sponsored, let's say, most of the archaeological digs, especially in the areas of Turkey and Haran, and so many other areas as well. So they, it always puzzled me a little bit why they would be sponsoring archaeology in such a way. It kind of got clear to me later when I saw actually the artifacts, that there is actually a link and a connection here. So so they would have the funds to travel worldwide, and what they would do is they would go to auctions, and then they would purchase certain objects which were purchased specifically for the lodge. I have to make that clear. It wasn't for any private collectors, it was for the lodge.
Wow.
Yeah. So and then there were all sorts of different objects, many of them ritualistic, because for them it was quite important to use something which has been used previously, because they contain like a blueprint.
Yeah.
And so when you use something, I can explain it for the people who don't know really what I'm talking about. When you have a specific, let's say you have your favorite cooking spoon, okay, and you use it all the time, so it takes on almost like a part of you, like a little bit of your memory. And further than that, when you have a very sensitive person, it can read this kind of memory structure which is connected to the object. So the same when you have a wand or a knife for ritualistic kind of purposes. So they would not only read this DNA memory or the blueprint which was connected to it, it also contained a lot of the knowledge because it was used for certain rituals. So it was kind of a shortcut for them to gain more knowledge and to raise their ability to communicate with whatever kind of entity they wanted to communicate with.
So that's like doing psychometry on an item as well, as what we know in the spiritual sense, like taking energies and doing like a reading, and so DNA
yes. So there are all sorts of different practices, you know, which I heard about and I have seen, because they were quite openly talking to me about it, and they were trying to imprint my interest, of course, to draw me over to the side, to kind of say, okay, the doors are open for you, and you can be a part of this, be a member of this. I was never really intrigued by it, not because I was scared of it. I never actually was scared of them, to be honest, but it just didn't interest me. I did look into magic because, as I have a very scientific mind, I wanted to know really what the whole deal is here. You know, is this really working? Is this something which people just imagine? What is the truth behind it? So, and I did do some tests with other people as well, you know, so who were kind of willingly joining me in this under this scientific kind of status. So and yes, there are some things connected surely to their rituals which I know of, which definitely was bearing an energy which was making me feel even uneasy. And I'm not someone who is easily to convince about spirits and such. Not saying that I don't believe in it, but I need to kind of, you know, a little bit of proof of things. That's just my
research every area, so cross it off the list.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So I have to say that some things were quite incredible, and I came across, of course, some of the old, as I call them, old masters or old magicians, which were friends of my father. And so they had certainly an incredible knowledge. Many of them were trained in a way for telekinesis, and it was just, there were more kind of people who were chosen for this, who had certain types of gifts.
And Sorry to stop you there. And have you witnessed the telekinesis?
I did with one person, which was Professor Hamburger, or Dr. Klingsor, as he was known as well. He went with my friend. I at the time visited him, and I always took someone with me because I found him a little bit creepy. So, but I was very young as well. Okay, so but I went over with my friend, and she was just walking next to him, and what he did is he just touched very gently her shoulder, and she collapsed. She just collapsed next to me, and I was thinking, what the hell? What just happened? And later on, I found out that he also was trained in hypnosis. So there are some ways, of course, to what I call shock hypnosis, so which is just by sheer touch in certain places on your body, you can just put someone into a hypnosis just like that. So which is something which I kind of researched later on. But she was, of course, immediately scared of him, and I said, don't be too worried, he hasn't got a hold over you. So it's just that he's showing off his abilities. So that's what I kind of interpreted it as. So
it's interesting because to show off your abilities, if it was benevolent, you wouldn't have women dropping to the floor. So it's clearly it's a benevolent ability, and we all have access to this power, but they've hidden it from us, learned it for themselves, and are using it for Satanism. It's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. So at that time, I was still kind of finding out who are these people, so who's my father even, in that respect. So, and when I came across that there are different categories and there are different kind of groups of people. So there's some who are dedicated to Satanism. There are some which are working with demons, so which are different things. And I think you throw it all together. So, but there are different things. And some people like the Fog Lodge, which is the most notorious lodge, which I know. This one was founded 1840 in Munich by some wealthy industrialists, and they are known as a Freemasonic order. However, they are not really connected to the Freemasons, but they are definitely a gate. The Freemasons are a gateway to that kind of order, and this order has been known especially through the Second World War. So there was a guy who was called Franz Bardon, who actually, and people think that's just a story, but it's actually a true story. He was into magic, and he written numerous books as well. And he had this kind of connection to this order. And Adolf Hitler supposedly was addressing him to be a member of this Fog Lodge because it was something he desired, because it could enhance his ability to raise his power. But they wouldn't let him in because he was too unstable and he didn't have any gifts. So that's the official story.
Wow.
And then he was arrested and put actually into a concentration camp where he either died or he disappeared. Nobody knows really what happened to him. But he managed to write a book.
Sorry.
Yes, sorry.
What was his name again?
Franz Bardon.
Bardon.
Yeah, Bardon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Alex, you literally grew up around magic in a sense, or like whether you subconsciously or consciously knew it. And being a scientist, I'm guessing that comes with some level of skepticism as well. What are you? What's your conclusion now regarding magic as a man who's understood everything that his father and the Masonic lodges do? What do you conclude now regarding the power of magic?
Okay, I try to differ between magic and things which I actually also use in my own personal work, which is alchemy. So even
alchemy.
Yes. So even so, there's a lot of bridging here, and many people mix the two together.
Okay.
I think you have to be very careful not to confuse one for the other. So I do now. I work a lot with megalithic sites and stone circles and ancient sites.
So like Glastonbury or Stonehenge or something like that, yeah, with ley lines, that kind of stuff.
That's right. So I try, as a scientist, I'm extremely interested in how water works with our planet. Because water is totally misunderstood and probably the most misused element on our planet.
I agree.
So I was researching a lot on the tracks of my father, who was in Turkey quite a lot, and coming back to the objects which he was trying to purchase. Now, there was something which was quite incredible, and that's I talked about it very shortly. In Priene, which is an area in Turkey, it's an ancient site, and it is like a tabletop hill. And on the foot of this hill, there is an incredible temple. So when I was there, the team, again from Siemens, sponsored from Siemens, the archaeologists were there and doing their digs. And I just happened to travel with a Turkish lady who was brilliantly translating, and without that, I would have been lost. So we approached some people, and because my father told me from a specific artifact which was found in Priene. So then I thought, okay, that was the main reason for me to travel to Turkey and to see what the true story about it is. So when we arrived, we kind of tried to find someone or anybody who would have some form of connection to the archaeology team, and we found someone which was working in the nearby cafe, which was on the foothill of this ancient site. And this cafe was a typical Turkish cafe, an open air cafe. So there was this young guy, and he was actively he was employed previously by the archaeologists. So, and he told us from a object or some form of an artifact which they unearthed, but it wasn't just a coincidence. So Sabine was one of the leading archaeologists, and I believe, I'm not 100% sure if it was still under Helmut, what was his name again? Very famous archaeologist. I'm sorry, I've forgotten his name for a second. But so the team was purposely searching in one specific area without even having any lead to what they would find. And they found this incredible object, which was made of some form of a black, could be a glass, could be something, a stone, but it was glass-like. And when they unearthed it, and it had carvings on it, so that he made a drawing and stuff. And it was quite incredible, because this was exactly what my father had purchased previously. So there were two other objects which were exactly the same, just from out of a different material.
Wow.
So, and it was never documented. It was never publicly made known that they found it. It was within 6 hours being transported out of this country, out of Turkey, to, I believe it was Berlin in Germany. So, and that was all information which we gathered there. So then we had, of course, a lead, and I thought, okay, now we want to know more. And we did, but we returned the next day, and that is the true story. We returned the next day, and the cafe was closed.
Of course.
That shut the whole cafe. So we didn't know where the boy lived or any. So we found then our friends, which my Turkish friends contacted, who were living in the area. They found out where he was. So he lived in a remote village. So we went to the village, and then he continued to tell us about Haran. Now, Haran is a different story, and that was something my dad was telling me about. Göbekli Tepe, right? One of the most incredible sites in Turkey.
What was it called?
Göbekli Tepe.
Göbekli Tepe. Okay, because I'm looking at stuff as you're talking, and I've just found Helmut Brandl.
No, it's Helmut Schmidt, actually. That's him.
Right, okay. Well, we can't rely on Wikipedia and all that.
So, but going back to what was that last?
Okay. So what was the name of that place you've just said in Turkey again?
The last one I just mentioned was Göbekli Tepe, is one of the most incredible sites and the probably oldest site known to archaeology.
Right. Can you spell that, Alex, please?
You're asking someone who's highly dyslexic, so I try.
To spell it.
Yeah.
It's G-O-B-E-K-L-E
Yeah. Yeah.
new word T-E-P-E.
Okay.
Tepe.
Right,
Göbekli
okay.
Tepe.
That's a mouthful.
Lovely, thanks. Yeah. So it's the oldest site.
Dates 11,600 BC.
Wow. Wow.
Incredible site, and it's only 5% have been unearthed from these temples, and there are the most incredible. I was there in 2004 when you still had access to the temple site. It took us a long journey to go from one end to another from in Turkey, and it was in that time. There were quite a few unrests as well in the area because it's quite close to Iran-Iraq border. So, but it was, see, my mom, she was originally, her family, not herself, she came from Urfa, which is actually old Sumerian territory. So, and that's where the temple is.
Wow. Wow. But you can see why any Mason would love to have an architect, like an artifact that's from there. Imagine the sacred, potent energy, especially if only 5%'s been discovered. And isn't it interesting that over the last kind of 2 years, there's been a lot of earthquakes and a lot of disturbances in Turkey specifically as well?
Absolutely. And there's not, see, talking from earthquakes and disasters, one of the artifacts which I had, and it might have been just a coincidence, but I had a sigil, which is like a tiny piece of paper which it has some form of a bound energy in it, which is very difficult to describe. It's like a secret language, and they're using also crystal powder very often to enhance the energy in it. So it had a very blue powder, which I believe was azurite, and then they sealed it all off. So it was one of the things which my father actually left to me. And I previously worked with it for safekeeping because people were actually at some point chasing me and trying to get those objects off me. But that's a story. Yeah. So I was on a run quite a bit because of these kind of things. I also had a lodge book, which I don't have anymore for anybody who thinks so. I have given it away because it was very, very explosive and quite, it contained all sorts of names and ritualistic information. So, which is something you shouldn't just carry around. But this sigil, I found it should have been kept in a safe place. So a friend of mine who's a very famous dowser, he made a connection to the Witchcraft Museum in Boscastle, of all places. And at the time, it was owned by someone who was not very involved in it. It previously was owned by actually a pupil of Aleister Crowley. So that was the founder of the Witchcraft Museum in Boscastle, right? And then I decided to bring it there for safekeeping because he was quite a neutral person, and people I know who were also into the dowsing and all this, they were quite into healing, so it seemed to be all very kosher. So we then buried the sigil behind the Witchcraft Museum on the bank underneath some hawthorn tree for safekeeping in a tin box, like an old biscuit box, and probably about I don't know, 25, 30 centimeter deep. So, you know, not so shallow. So it was well set. Now, then I traveled to Turkey, and the most incredible part, what happened is there was a flood in Boscastle.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you remember the flood?
Vaguely. What year was that? What year
that was the same year. It was 2004.
2004.
I don't remember, but
Yeah, so it was quite devastating. A whole bridge got washed away. Most of the buildings were completely flooded. It was like the end of the world. It was something which Boscastle or Cornwall never ever seen before. It was quite extreme. And so the guy from the Witchcraft Museum, I called him because I saw it in Turkey, in Istanbul, because I had to return to Istanbul, and that's where I saw it on TV, on the news in Turkey. And I thought, oh my God, this is where we just buried the Sigil, right? So I called him and I said, what do you think? And he said, well, what do I think? There's nothing left of the museum in the first place. All the artifacts which were inside were completely destroyed. And I didn't know, or we don't know still, if the Sigil is still there or not.
Maybe, Alex, maybe that was the curse when you buried
it could have been. It could have been. But see, from my mind, so I'm thinking, really, could there be such extreme energy connected to this? It might be, so I don't know. But it was an extreme coincidence if it wasn't connected. So it was quite incredible.
That's where my mind was going as she was telling the story. So that's it's.
Isn't it interesting, Mandy and Angie? We just did the interview with Harry Rhodes, and he also flooded like the half of Birmingham. So if he can do it with an etheric cannon, there's no reason why this sigil couldn't have like etheric deep power in it. And it's like, to me, it actually sounds a bit benevolent. It sounds like it's washed away all of that witchcraft in the but who knows?
Yeah, that's what. That's how I'm looking at that. We had a massive flood in Madeira, and this is what's coming to my mind because I lived there for quite a few years, and I'm just wondering, I mean, I know about weather manipulation now, so that was not an act of God, as they call it. This was an act of harp. The weather manipulation.
Yeah. Well, just look what happened in Hawaii.
But exactly.
So I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, I'm not overly into conspiracies, but there are really definitely some footages there which are not normal. That's not right.
So if it was a witchcraft museum, that tells me that needed washing, cleansing, because water is cleansing.
Yeah, it could be very well the case.
Yeah.
So it was just, the timing was just incredible. You know what I mean? So. But coming back to Göbekli Tepe, so it was every time when we traveled and we tried to find out, something major happened. There was also, for the first time when we approached Priene, the first site I was talking about, where they unearthed this glass-like object. That was the first time ever that a UFO sighting, which happened at the same day and night when in the night when we were there, when it got recorded and shown on Turkish television. Never happened before, because they were quite, what can I say, they didn't want to admit that anything like that was existing, right? So, and it was the first time ever that it was announced on television that there was a UFO sighting.
Wow.
Especially on that day. So, which was quite something. There was also a lot of cattle which had been found, which has been mutilated in the area just the night after. So,
Alex, is this the day of the flood?
No, that was previously. The flood came after I have been visiting the site in Haran.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I can't remember what the month was, it's too long ago. But I went to Haran, and then I researched the area. I also found out that there was a big connection to the military at the time, because they tried to seal off the whole site. They found these chambers underneath the temple. Wow. And they didn't really excavate a lot of it, or they didn't really explain what those chambers were for. All I know is that later on, in later stage, they refilled those chambers. So the same, like there was a wishing tree just above the sites, which actually the locals would go to for forever and put their little ribbons on it and would have like little celebrations there with their families. And when they did the excavation, by accident, they would bulldoze that tree, and it got destroyed. So there were all sorts of weird and wonderful things happening around the site. And now on the site, when you look at it now, they have a big dome over it, which actually stops the energy, in my opinion, stops the energy from working freely together with the star system, which they're aligned with.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was Göbekli Tepe, and then I returned to Istanbul, and that's when the flood happened. And that's when I saw it on television. So that was definitely something quite incredible. Coming back to the lodges, people are not really aware, coming back to the main issue here, that these lodges are operating right under our nose. For example, there is a lodge which had been known 18th century, 1840, no, it wasn't 1840, that was a folk lodge. There was a different one which I made a note of, 18th century, I was right, yes. So, which is the Hellfire Club, right? That's something which many people heard about, and I think it's kind of a posh motorcycle club, but it isn't. It was a Victorian lodge. Again, most of the rich Victorian people from the London area would be a member of this lodge. And the founder was Francis Dashwood. So Francis Dashwood also owns a house which is owned, not anymore, of course he's dead, but there is a very famous abbey which is called Magna Abbey, which is right on the banks of the Thames. And that one, yes.
What was the abbey called again, Alex? The abbey?
Called Magmenham Abbey, which is MEDMENHAM, I think, Abbey.
Magmenham. Yeah, that's about right, isn't it, Mad Men?
Yeah.
And that one is in West Wickham, I believe it was. Yeah.
Okay. My God. I wonder if what's the name who wrote all those books? Sounds like she was in that area talking about the Dashwoods and the Wickhams.
Yeah, very famous. So and there's also a church on top of the caves, which is not an ordinary church. If you go inside, you know it's not a normal church. It has the most incredible painting of the universe and lots of stars, and it's very ritualistic. And it has actually a chamber or a tunnel which goes from the church down. The church sits right on top of the caves, which goes down into the caves. Wow. That I know that for sure. So, and they have still, even today, well, I'm not sure if that is today, but when I was the last time there and investigated, which is now about 20 years, okay? It's 20 years back. So they still would have once a year, or was it twice a year, they would have a meeting inside the cave. Wow. And when I arrived with my friends to do some research the first time, which was in 1987 or 8, I think, quite a long time ago, we were really on the track of someone who was known to be a puppet master. No, these puppet masters are not known like the Rothschild or something. These are people who are way above that, and you don't know even who they are. You would never know them. You would never see them coming up in public or anything. So, and this guy actually lived in the Francis Dashwood house, which is Magna Abbey on the side of the Thames. So when I came across this information, we had to tread really careful because we didn't want to stir up too much attention and put ourselves in danger. So I lived still in Germany at the time, so I took 4 of my friends along for support, and then we investigated. And so we first went actually to the Thames. We hired one of those boats, you could have, like a little motorboat at that time. I don't know if you still can do that. And then we kind of went down the Thames, and we were looking for the Dashwood house. And after 20 minutes or so, we came to the point where we saw the tower, because there is is a tower from the Abbey, but it's not really known as a church or so. It's quite a strange thing, because people who know about that site and people who go there know that there are, again, some facilities underground the building. But if you research, then nothing is known about it. So the neighbor at the site, I'm sorry, I'm jumping a little bit, so I hope you all
No, it's making perfect sense, please. Yeah.
So the neighbor at the time who lived in the house next door, which was quite a grand house as well, he stopped us and he said, "How did you get in?" And I said, "What do you mean? How did you get in? We just got in." Or I forgot to say, we took the boat back when we knew where it was, and then took the car over, and then we just drove into the estate, right? Then he said, "Usually the gates are closed, so you can't just come in." So I'm surprised that the gates are open. That maybe has to do because he just moved on that particular day when we arrived. The neighbor was packing up everything and moving. And then he said to us, "As I'm moving, I tell you what's going on here." And that was again,
Wow.
one of those coincidences. And then he took us into the garden, to his garden area, where we could overlook the Dashwood house. And then he told us who owned it. He told us what is going on. He said that they have meetings there as well once a year, and then they take off in groups to go to the Dashwood caves, where they also have other meetings.
Fuck's sake.
So,
wow.
yeah, and he said he was an architect, German. Can you believe it? A German guy. So I was quite surprised. And he said that this guy is really floating in like the high society, and he's totally untouchable. So then I was quite cocky, so I thought, okay, so let's just see if we can meet him, right? I was quite naive in that time. So I said to my friends, let's just see if we can, let's pretend we are journalists and we are interested in the architecture, because it was a very grand house. And so we went over, and then we got immediately stopped by one of his bull terriers, which was a gardener. And he said, who are you? What are you doing here? And all this. And then we tried, to sell our story, but it didn't work really. So, and then he said, if you would like to make an appointment with whoever owns this house, then we need to show our passports, and then he would take a copy of it, and then they would get in touch.
Oh my God.
Yeah, of course we didn't do that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So then we left, but we did try and research, and there wasn't internet, of course, so we had to do our research differently. But when I returned, and that's what I want to say, while I had this experience, this very real experience, in one of the nights before we actually seen this guy, well, not this guy, sorry, that comes later. Before we actually went to the Dashwood house, I had a really weird experience. And I don't know if it was a dream or some form of out-of-body experience, but I've been drawn into this place, which was underneath the Abbey, the place where we ended up researching, the Dashwood house. So, and in that time, I got a name, which, you know what a motto is? A motto is a kind of a secret name for a person in a lodge.
A motto, M-O-T-O.
Okay.
I can't translate it really. They wouldn't have their normal names. They would have names like Frater something,
Yeah.
So,
Very nice.
my father was known, for example, as Frater Daniel. Okay, so Frater Daniel is that was his motto. So so everybody involved in this kind of lodge world has this kind of names.
Yeah.
And so one of these names was given to me in this experience, and that was the name of the person who was the architect, right? When I came back to while I'm telling you this is quite important. When I came back to Germany, someone has posted a postcard, which was in my post box, and the only thing on that postcard written was his name, this motto. That was it.
Wow.
And how on earth could, you know, that was incredible. So I got always this kind of shivering things, you know, this truth to some of the
the postmark and everything was obliterated.
Oh yes, and I couldn't see the postmark because something like that happened actually 3 times. But always the stamp, the post stamp, you couldn't really see where exactly it came from. I knew it was coming from a Munich area, but I couldn't see where exactly. So because some of the letters of the numbers were smudged over. So
and it was the nickname of this guy.
it was his motto. His motto is like is it a pseudonym? What do you say?
It is. Is it like a nickname? Like
yeah, it is a bit like a
nickname. Yeah, we call
Angie, it was the nickname of his father.
Right, so that's what I wasn't sure about.
No. It wasn't the nickname of it wasn't my father's name.
No, I didn't catch that.
It was his name.
Him. That guy, the one who didn't get him to sing. That's how I read it.
Yeah, because that just made me shiver myself.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very powerful.
Yeah. So and then I thought that was the end of it. So we then wanted to just see the Dashwood Caves, which were quite famous, you know, in itself. So I thought, okay, let's just do a tour and see what the energy is like. Sorry, I have to just have a bit of tea here. And so we went to the Dashwood Caves, and guess what?
Go on.
There was a big lorry there, and they were putting not hundreds, but a lot of these long benches. They were carrying all the benches inside the caves.
Oh.
Something was happening right there, you know, probably the night or maybe the next day. I don't know. I can't remember exactly how it was. But even the woman who owned the cafe next to the Dashwood Caves, she didn't know. She was fairly new at the time. She just taken over the cafe, because we had a little chat with her. And even she was completely stunned because she had been asked to close the cafe. And no was given. So, and they were very adamant that she just closes the cafe and go home. So, and then all the benches got carried in. And obviously they had their meeting there. So on arrival, when we came, I spotted a car there. And it was not a particular Porsche car, it was a Mercedes, a dark Mercedes. And within that Mercedes, there was a driver, so like a chauffeur, and someone sitting in the back. And when the window, I forgot, see, I'm so sorry, I forgot to.
Don't worry.
When I had this experience, I saw him in human form already. So I knew what he would look like. And when I looked into the car, it was him sitting in the car who was the architect, right? So, and then after that experience, I thought we have to tread a little bit careful because we made contact, right? So, and that is a true story as well. So when we drove then afterwards, we drove to Boscastle, and we were all sitting in the same car, and we were followed halfway to Boscastle by a different car. And we are not the kind of people who would imagine things, you know, so you know when you followed. And so at some point they just disappeared. But it was it was then when I realized maybe we have to be a little bit careful. And when I returned to Germany, I had a meeting actually with a younger magician who knew the old type magicians, and he said, you have to tread more silently because how did he say that? He said, the drums of the OTO are very loud. So, which means in translation, you're making noise, right? So,
wow.
So then, but then I see when I get curious about something, I want to know more. So, and we tried to find out more about this guy, this architect. It was very, very difficult. I did get contacted by someone. See, there is so many links to so many people. There was a place in, you probably know it. It's a witchery in Edinburgh. The witchery is like it's a restaurant, and so I think Aleister Crowley stayed above. They're renting out rooms and stuff. So it got famous because he stayed there. So it's been a restaurant for quite some time. I don't know if it still exists. I was there again in the late 80s. But behind the witchery, there was a wax museum.
Oh
and that wax museum as well was, again, a lodge member from this folk lodge. So officially, this lodge has been dissolved in 1932 or something, but it never did. They're still operating. Even today, they are still around.
Wow.
And they have connections. For example, they had connection to the P2 Lodge, a notorious lodge in Italy. Don't know if you know that one.
No.
This one got blown up, literally, almost, by the Italian government because of the pedophilic rings they had. So they needed to end it because it was getting too many people were on their track and too many things happened. It was, again, the P2 consisted of a lot of bankers, lawyers, doctors, so people who are in very high places in the society. And the P2 Lodge was around for a very long time. I think they're still existing. Then we have also groups in America, for example, Anton LaVey. Don't know if you heard that name.
Isn't he the priest of Satan or something like that? The priest of Satan.
Exactly. So he has a huge fellowship. Then there's we call it in German Telema Lodge, which is also a lodge which was founded originally by Aleister Crowley. There are so many of them. There's so many. Ordo Templi Orientis, most of them are Saturn lodges, and they're still all operating. The only difference is now that the new people, they are much more greedy. They don't have any loyalty to each other. So they like to, if they do, they're very power hungry. And
so like the protection of the brotherhood is getting weaker in a sense. They're not protecting their fellow brothers anymore. It's just becoming a lot more egoic.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So everybody has a huge ego, and they all want the biggest power, the biggest status, within the lodge. Some of the lodges are not operating in the ranks like the Freemasons. You don't have necessary grandmasters carrying the 33rd degree title. So some of them just have members, like the 99 Lodge or the Fog Lodge. They have 99 members, and the 100th member is a demon. So once every 3 years, all the members of this group, they have to, there's a lottery, right? So someone has to draw a ball, which is obviously a different color. So, and then this particular person has to be sacrificed. So that it's happened. Yeah, it's very heavy stuff. And it was, and they have something which is called a tepaphone in that time. Today they will have something completely different in place. But the tepaphone was a disc, and they would operate that disc with the power of the mind. So that disc then would create some form of a frequency which was targeting this specific person who was the person to be offered. Because we all have different frequencies, and because there were very gifted people working in that lodge, they would know exactly what frequency you were about, and then they would just kill you that way, usually with a heart attack. So, and that is definitely how they did it, once every 3 years.
It's crazy, Alex. So they go in knowingly that one day they're going to pick a ball and it could be them.
And they could die. Yeah, like you sign up knowing I might die by joining this lodge.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Russian roulette.
Yeah,
Isn't
it
it?
is like Russian roulette. Yes.
Something
So,
wrong. There's
yeah.
got to be something wrong with them.
And there's only 99 allowed, so they can't grow. And is that 99 per lodge or 99 for the globally for that lodge?
There was only one lodge ever known. Yes.
Oh.
Just
And the
one.
100th member is the demon.
Yeah, no.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yes. So that is a tradition, but you shouldn't forget that lodge is just the center lodge, right? So then you have other lodges which are the umbrella lodge, which spreads out in different places. So many of the lodges, even though they would be officially not connected, they are connected. Many of the members, for example, who are in one lodge would be also a member of another lodge.
Yes.
So it's never that clean cut, so they be going and members of
A
lodges.
network. It's like a network.
That 99, right? That song just came into my head. 99 red balloons.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's true.
I
So
don't
it's
know.
kind of like that's like a network, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. So, and it's a bit like Templars and the Illuminati and the Freemasons. So it's never just one group. It kind of spreads out, and they are globally known. So they have seats in every single city and every country. So the Freemasons as such as well anyway. So they're like a charity group, right? And then if you go through the closed doors, and some groups are really not connected to anything bad or evil at all. They're just there as a front, like the mafia has an ice cream parlor, right? So, and then when you go and be a member, then you have to prove yourself that you're actually trustworthy. So it's not like they instantly draw you into this kind of deep magical kind of circle. So only if you tick certain criteria, and you have to have knowledge as well. So it's not just for anybody who never educated themselves, right? So they have an extensive library like the Vatican, which they have books we would never see in our lifetime, which contains knowledge from places which were Sumerian or any kind of places where archaeology was unearthing some information which was kept on tablets. So very often, that's why the whole archaeology, the whole history, there are so many lies, and they try to keep us in that specific spot so that we don't learn too much about ourselves, our ability.
Sounds like they're in control of all of that.
Absolutely. The dumber we are, the better, so, and they're the ones, you see that like 100 years ago, whenever, so there people couldn't, for example, study medicine unless you would be coming from a very wealthy family, right? So it was not normal for someone who wouldn't have any money, like a farmer, for example, to study medicine. So these are all restrictions which in society are still in place, actually.
Yeah.
It's just under a different logo, right? So they're still doing exactly the same. In fact, the plan, which was around thousands of years ago, still applies today. The only thing is that the time have changed a little bit and the tools are different, but it's still the same plan.
Yeah, of course. So, you can see now why they've, indoctrinated people to believe that this is all taboo. It's bullshit voodoo to get us off the track all the time. These bastards are practicing it.
Of course, it's the best thing if someone gets close to the truth to discredit this person.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I found that out myself. I had a big run-in when I was approached in Scotland. I think I told you from what happened to me in Scotland. I think on the last show, when I was approached by the Ferguson family, who are quite deeply involved in this, and nobody knows about it. And if you would talk to any Scottish person in the area, they would just look at you and think you're crazy. They have nothing to do with this.
Can you touch on that again? The Ferguson family, because it's been quite a few weeks since we had you on. Do you want to touch on that again briefly, if you can, about the Ferguson family?
Yes, it's the Invercold house, which is just very close to the Balmoral estate.
Okay.
Close to Balmoral.
Yeah.
So, and I've been invited to come onto the estate. At the time, I was looking for investment. That is true, but I wasn't quite sure, what I would purchase, a house or whatever. So, and they invited me under the first of all, the person I was with at the time, her family came from a Freemason background. So
right.
I didn't know that at the time at all. I had no idea. However, so she was a bridging tool, and then she kind of made the arrangements to see Lord Ferguson. And then we had a meeting. His son was there as well. He was actually quite a nice guy, completely different, but he didn't want to do anything, had nothing to do with the castle, you see. He lived on the estate, but just in a cottage. And so we had a good chat, and then he told me from the estate, and they needed to have someone who's taking over the castle, and there was a finance plan in place to run wedding venues and all this kind of stuff. So it was quite an attractive financial proposition, and the house was very, very beautiful castle, which they call house, but it needed some repair. So he wanted a certain amount of funds to come into the castle, so to repair the roof at the time. And I was invited, and then he showed me the castle, and we went through all the rooms and stuff. Quite interesting. Some of the memorabilia which are kept in this castle, for example, a copy of the Doomsday Book.
Wow.
And an artifact which supposedly came from the Apollo 11.
Wow.
And he made a strange remark, because see, in that time I believe still people landed on the moon and stuff, and he said, well, if you believe in the story that it actually ever got to the moon. So there was some really strange things which happened. But so then he showed me what was known as the Silver Room, and he said, if you take the castle on, all I want you to do is once a year we have a meeting here in this castle, and you have the responsibility of the Silver Room. So you need to join us, and then you will have the key to the Silver Room, and you put all the artifacts and all the stuff which is in the Silver Room. You set it all up in a special room where we have the meeting, and that was it. So, but he didn't want to have anybody who was not associated with the knowledge of the lodge, or because of the background of my father. So I was a perfect candidate. So, but I wasn't interested in it, because as soon as I clocked what it was, that this was actually the high seat of the Scottish Freemasons, which are notoriously known to be a lot more aggressive than the guys from London. So I thought, I need to get out of here. So then I said, a couple of days later, I called him and I said, oh, thank you very much for the offer, but no. And he said, oh, if it is the money, we can arrange an overdraft with your bank immediately. So I said, no, it's nothing to do with it. So, yes. So they're all working together, you know, so there was no doubt. And then I decided, as I said, I said, thank you, not for me. At that time, I was doing my second profession, which I was known as a sculptor. That was my passion in life. So next to being a doctor, I studied art as well.
Alex, can you
Yes.
do that in a minute? But do you think that woman was sent in your life just to get you to that point in Scotland?
Definitely. Nothing is by chance.
I had to
nothing.
say that then.
Nothing is by chance, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Nothing is
she
by chance.
disappeared. She disappeared just as quickly as she came.
Which she came.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. So when I then decided to,
He's waiting for me to disappear, but I'm not going anywhere.
Bless you, Vivian.
He's stuck with this one, a Lancastrian big gum.
so yeah, when I turned their generous offer down, I just won the Royal Scottish Art, the Royal Scottish Award, Academy Award, sorry, for with the sculpture, and it was quite a nice surprise for me, and I worked quite hard for this. And then after I had the press who came to take some pictures and stuff, and after that,
What did you sculpt?
In stone.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so I used alabaster, marble, serpentine, all sorts of different stones.
Tell them about the commission for Balmoral.
Oh, I did a commission, yeah, for the Queen. I forgot to. Yeah, I did a commission, and it was a commission which was dedicated to her mum, to the Queen Mother, and the theme was mother and child. Now, I have to say, I'm sorry, I'm not a royalist. If I offend anybody, then I'm very sorry. But so I thought that could be quite funny. So I set out to find the perfect stone, and the company I was working with was sitting in Germany, and they had these amazing stones from all over the world. So they had a big, huge black basalt. And they said it sits on top of other stones and it looks really eerie, and they wanted to get shot of it. So I made them an offer and I got the stone. It was about 3.5 tons heavy. So
Wow.
it got shipped over and transported to my house, which was quite difficult because the Balmoral Bridge, the Braemar Bridge was Ballater Bridge was too Crassy Bridge was too small, so it couldn't take the
weight.
The weight of the lorry, so he had to go all the way around through the Gordon estate. Anyway, so then they arrived and I did the sculpture, and it was really looked like an angel because it looked like a crouched person and big wings appearing. So I just kind of sculpted it. And then, Grace Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looked like Grace Jones being pregnant with wings.
Right, okay. Okay.
It
So-
didn't go down well, did it?
It didn't go down well at all. A black angel and being pregnant, that was just like, but because it was publicly released, so she couldn't really say anything. I never seen that piece anywhere in the garden. I think she got shot. But yeah, so that was my connection I had with them. We kind of had always a bit because I lived so close to them, I never quite understood why I should wait when she would drive over the bridge. So we very often in the middle of the Crassy Bridge, kind of, on a Sunday, I think I had a little demon in my ear, which would say, "Come on, go to the shop now." So, and then would always coincide with the church finished, and then she would drive, and we would always meet at the bridge. So yes, yeah. So and then I had to back up, of course, but she was always smiling. She came very often actually to see my horse, who was a fell pony. I had a fell pony stallion.
Do they still have?
And they still have, yeah, which was given to Camilla and what's his name? Charles. Forgot what his name. As a wedding gift. So yeah. So we were quite close in that estate, you know, because we were neighbors. And so she was using my driveway, you know, because it was security reasons that I couldn't put gate on my house and stuff like that. But anyway, coming back to the estate, after it all happened, and that's why I'm telling you the connection with the Queen, only because the press then fabricated that story that I had this incredible link to the Queen, and we would have satanic rituals behind my house in the forest. I mean, come on, you know, how weird is that?
And you fathered about 50 children.
And oh yes, and I fathered obviously, you know, most of the children from both villages. So there were all sorts. I mean, there was every single day something in the paper, and it was just horrendous. It was funny at first. I thought it was quite amusing, but then when you have reporters on your door and they camped out at the Lochnagar distillery, and you have them there every day, and they're restricting your freedom because you don't want to leave the house because they would just chase you. My friends got chased, you know. It was just coming to the point where it was really quite intimidating. Let's say that.
Who do you think put the media up to that? Because we know the media are the propaganda machine. Who do you think might have been behind that?
I think it was them. I think it was the lodge who had
The 99.
No, that was at the time the Freemasons from Scotland.
The Scottish, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So because I did say I didn't agree to be a part of it. So if you don't, and I knew already too much in that time anyway. So they wanted to destroy me. So they destroyed literally my career within a week.
Yeah.
Nobody would touch my sculptures. Nobody would even talk to me. I mean, it was just ridiculous. Yeah. That even didn't bother me. What did bother me that they then started to come to my house in the night, and it was one particular night which I remember, and I slept above my studio. There was a little flat, and when I was working a lot for a deadline for a gallery, I would just sleep on top in that little flat. So I had horses at the time as well. So I was looking from the flat into the woodland, and that particular night, for some reason, I couldn't sleep. So when I went over to the window, I could see torchlights coming from the forest towards my studio.
That's nasty. Wow.
Yeah. So then
How many were there?
there were six of them. So that's what I could see. There might have been more, but I could count 6 lights. And that's when my friend said, you know, I should go. And there was something inside me which was like a knowing if I wouldn't leave, I would probably not leave alive. That was the first time that I really was worried about my safety.
Wow.
Yeah.
I grabbed a few things and I left. I had already prepared, strangely, a bag because I was due to travel to the other side of the country. So I just grabbed my car, the bag, and I left. I contacted on the way my uncle, which was from Germany. Now that's another very strange story, which I'm not going to be talking about all of it because it would take too long. But I thought he was a safe haven. So when I arrived in Germany, I thought I would get a break and then could think about what my next move is. So I had the horses there and all sorts of things, you know, went through my head, and I needed to trust the people which I left behind to take care of that. And however, so when I was in Germany, I stayed in one of his properties, which he had an empty flat, so that was fine. And then I learned the next day when we had a talk, a chat, and he said, "Oh, you stay in Germany, and just be safe and all that." So while I said, "Oh, can I use your printer because I needed to print something out?" And I went over to his desk, and when I went over to his desk, I saw a piece of paper, which was a copy of a bank transfer, where he was paid from Scotland.
Oh my God.
And I thought, no, that can't be right. So, and then a friend of his, he was really my savior. He was not so keen on my uncle. He was quite a rough diamond. He was a builder, and he did a lot of work for my uncle. But he put me aside and he said, "You need to get out of here," because he works together with them. They pay every month. So, and then he gave me an address from Spain, and he said, "I have 2 people there which are very good friends of mine, and you would be safe there." So I decided, okay, off to Spain, right? So, and when I was in Spain, I totally went off radar. I lived in a small finca, and I had still some form of money which was tying me over, but I needed to work. So I started to work with horses over there because, horses are my passion as well. So I did a lot of horse riding. And I did do some work there, but I knew it wasn't for long anyway. So then this Turkish woman, which was a friend of this builder guy, contacted me, and she said, and she was quite a spiritual person, and she said, "You need to go to Turkey because you need to find out really what happened." And it was strange because it was in my head for such a long time that I would go to Turkey to find out about the artifacts which my father has purchased. And that's how it all came together, that I then ended up in Turkey. So
Wow.
that's the next destination. Yeah. So yeah, it was quite tough. Then eventually, in Turkey, that was another thing. They even have people in Turkey, because I had to go to hospital in Turkey, and I was quite poorly at some time. Everything was just catching up with me. It was a big point in life where I needed really to think what I'm going to do next. And I ended up in a hospital, and this doctor, who was also a member of this lodge, I know it sounds almost
insane,
but he tried so hard to keep me in Istanbul. That was in Istanbul. So he tried everything, and he said, "Look, you can have a house here. I can put you in touch with this really famous sculptor in Turkey." And we went over to see him as well. And all this kind of, they really try very hard. If they want something from you, there's almost nothing they wouldn't do to lure you in. And because I was still recovering, I wasn't in a good space. And then there came the point when frictions kind of came along, and I started to get an infection. So, and I just thought, if I don't leave this country soon, then I'll probably never leave this country, because there's just too much going on here. I'm too watched and everything. So I decided to come back to Britain. But I didn't make it all the way first, because I collapsed in Germany because I needed to have another surgery. So then when I recovered enough, I went back to Britain. So then I kept my head low for many years. But I did a lot of research within that time, and a lot of things completely made sense. And I came across something really interesting, which is, you probably know the Large Hadron Collider, which is in CERN.
Yeah. CERN is where Harry Rhodes went, where they put the 2 particles and they explode it into each other, right?
Exactly. So now in my research, I always came across, especially in Turkey, I found this site in Priene, and there was this incredible wheel carved out of stone, and it looked like exactly like the inside of the Large Hadron Collider.
Oh.
was almost like a copy. And then I researched, and there were a few of those sculptures dotted around on this world. So in Mexico, Peru, I think, and somewhere else. So and then I thought maybe there was a reason that Siemens was involved in all those archaeological digs in the first place. And it had. So I know that sounds really unbelievable in a way, but all the research, everything, all the knowledge they have comes back to one point, which I researched, for so many years. And I always came back to the same conclusion. They were hunting what is known also in science as the God particle.
Yeah.
Mentioned the hidden box. So the aim was to redesign or create a matrix which could overlay the natural matrix, so that they could artificially create a reality to be in a simulation.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Well, it sounds like what's happening personally anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they worked this out forever. So it started with the ancient sites, and that's why very often ancient sites have like a coding, like the Roslin Chapel, as well. So there are many churches which carry these codes, and they're all connected to certain frequencies. So if you would connect all the ancient sites, then because they're usually created on certain power points, not just ley lines. We also have water lines, and we have also many of them are stargates as well. So they're aligned with certain constellations. So they knew all about it, of course, but they didn't want us to know, because as humans, if we would know our true potential, which we could achieve if we would be just connected to the true frequencies which are surrounding us, we would have incredible potential, each one of us.
Yeah.
They don't want us to have that knowledge, because then we would lose not only the fear, but also, as in ancient times, we would worship certain individuals almost like gods. Today, or in the past, that would be like the film stars and pop stars and all this. And they're all very often, as you know, coming from a very ritualistic background.
Yeah.
And they're using the same tools. So it all kind of makes sense once you do not connect all the dots. It makes sense. But there is a way how you can stop this from happening. There is a way how you can break through this matrix and immediately connect with the pure source again. Most people are not really aware of that, and it is not that easy to do in a way. But once you tap into the right frequencies, then all the sites can be reconnected to each other again in its original frequency.
Wow.
And that was something which my father told me, many, many years ago. And he said, that's what they're scared about. See, my father was very involved in it, but there was an element in him which I would say he actually was almost on the good side, because he in the end decided to betray them.
Yes, Father.
Yeah. So and that's why he told me all this stuff. He said,
Wow.
you need to find this, you need to find the right people to work together, so, and that's what we started to do. And we started to do it with a certain supplement which we just lately kind of brought onto the market. But it's not about the money. This is really just purely to see how many people share their experiences with that. For me, it was the connection of 3 elements. And if you connect those 3 elements, you can change something within yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
This is where your fabulous product comes into play as well, Alex, is the aqua.
Yes, that is just the first step.
Yeah.
So that is the first step, because we didn't know if it would work at all, to be honest. We were just kind of, it was being on the track and thinking, can this be for real? Is there really something about these elements, you know, if you would fuse them, could that really work and put us in a state of mind where we could heal ourselves and reconnect with nature and be connected to each other again? So and when we started to give it to people, then we had quite incredible feedback from it. So where we it wasn't just about the healing, the physical healing. It was also to do with the non-physical side,
The spiritual, yeah.
the spiritual side, exactly. So, and many people, when they had the first experience, they would break down in tears, or they would be, you know, very joyful for a day, and then they would be totally exhausted. It was just all sorts of different, very emotional kind of connections. But one thing was clear to me. So that is just the first step. We're working on more. We're working also on something which is like a resonance, which we translated from Akron into a sound, and we started to apply it to ancient sites.
Wow.
So now that is something we can do this in a later program, because we're not quite ready yet to show it. But we have seen that there is like a veil. And when we apply that frequency to each stone of an ancient site, for example, we have a stone circle, and we went to 2 sites just a few days ago to experiment. And each of the stones had an incredible memory, like water. Also an incredible memory of people who came to the site and did their thing. Now for stones, and unless you have an extremely evil energy, let's say, the stones see it just as energy, right? So it doesn't really matter that you have a pagan or a Christian or whatever it is. So long the intention is good, the energy is beneficial for the stones, and it keeps the stone circles alive as well, because they need that interaction, that resonance, because otherwise the vibration goes down quite a lot. And it's still there in the grounds, but it needs that kind of catalyst. So, and when we started to experiment with it and communicate, it's a bit like when you have a dolphin and you would like to communicate with the dolphin, and you show a dolphin a ball and you repeat it, and the dolphin would make a sound to identify the ball or encourage you to play with the ball. Then people, actually scientists, found out when they repeated that with different dolphins, it was always the same sound. So they could establish some form of a language between the dolphin and the human, right? So, and that kind of applies to the stones as well, because they are actually living organisms in a way, you know, so they are living. And so they have an incredible memory, and they are very able to communicate with us. When you're very sensitive and you put your hands on a stone, then very often people get all sorts of visions, or they get all sorts of energies. It depends really, you know, what you are absorbing from the stones, or what the stone maybe is able to give you. So
So, Alex, are you saying that the like the lodges globally, their main aim obviously has been to create this false matrix for us to live in, this illusion? And in a way, could they be going to these ritualistic stone places and they're trying to program the stones to negativity instead of positivity, something like that?
Absolutely, yeah, that's what I did for many, many years. But look at all the churches, for example. Many of them are set onto very sacred sites and really important sites. And many of them are not there to enhance, unfortunately, the energy. Many of them are there to, I wouldn't say suffocate, but maybe to redirect the energies for their own purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Alex, while we're talking about one, have you got like a bottle that we could show the viewers at home?
I might have.
Obviously, we'll put up links. We did put a link the last time in the Magna Carta group for the Magna Carta special.
Assistant.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's Akron. I don't know if you can see that. Oops, there's my bird as well. So that's Aquan, and we have.
You're a bird. How rude.
I just picked this up because I was waiting for a client, and we have a concentrate as well, and that's actually the one we are using in our experiments as well. And so that's a concentrate there.
Ah, nice. Wow.
This one is about 30 times stronger than the original Aquan water. So the Aquan water is to prime your system, and then you use the concentrate to follow up. However long, it depends really what you're looking for, what you want to use it for. So some people use it to get better if they have any medical condition. We can't make any claims, of course. But we can say that it contains frankincense, myrrh, and gold.
I love that. I love that about your product, Alex. It's fantastic.
And
She's right there.
It tastes lovely. I could actually drink a whole bottle, to be honest with you.
Frankincense,
I really like the taste.
I mean, I've been using the first drops that you did, you know, but I use it as eyes drops, Alex. They're fantastic. And just to the audience out there, get some. They're amazing, especially with on these computers, and you know, all your eyes go dry and everything. I find them incredible, and it is an anti-inflammatory. It works for me.
I mean, like Mandy and I, not the type of people that are took in. There's that many products out there, especially in the truther movement now. And you know, a lot, I'm sure they're great and all that, but we felt compelled to buy your product when we met you in Bournemouth.
I love it,
and it is amazing. And Alex, I wanted to try this for my skin. I've got what the medical profession call vitiligo, and while I was on the Aquan, it was incredible that the skin pigment was coming back, but then I ran out. Yeah,
I know.
You know the story behind that.
I sent you some more. Don't worry about it. We had actually because we had this enormous thing for the last 2 weeks where we actually given Aquan away just against the postage and a small donation of £5. So just to make it accessible for so many people as possible.
Well, all this comes back, I'll be a great advert for you. This is why Aaron wanted to contact you, because he wanted a little bottle. That's
one of the bottles which I have for him. So I'm happy
he's got the same, you see.
Yeah, I know. He did use it, and he was so grateful because he said it worked.
Coming back, works. Yeah, it's incredible.
We had so many amazing people calling us and putting reviews on, and many of the things I wasn't even aware that it would work so quickly. I mean, coming from a medical background myself, right? So I expected it to take a little while, but we had some people who had absolute incredible
the guy with psoriasis.
The psoriasis. There was someone with psoriasis in the most amazing places. You know, the whole arm was full of psoriasis, and he applied it one time, and his whole hand healed up immediately. I mean, I never ever seen anything like it. So I feel that even so I have kind of fused all the elements here together, that I was just channeling something, you know, which needed to come through. And it was the first time when we tasted it, when we tried it ourselves, it was amazing. It was just almost like an out-of-body experience. It was something happening within us, emotionally and physically. I cannot even describe it, but it's this is just the beginning of the journey. We did
Alex, I mean, I absolutely, for anyone out there, you need to check out Alex's website. We will put it, Indigo will put it on at the end. I do urge people to go and have a look. And then Alex did us a nice little code bundle for the Magna Carta group the last time, but I'll put that up again into the Magna Carta. So it's the Magna Carta 1215. Article 61 on Telegram. So I'll put those into the group
Okay,
and
perfect.
share into your
Yeah.
red
In the
group
red
as well. But I absolutely rate your project, Alex. You know,
Both do.
the first time I met you, I just thought what a lovely person you were, a lovely man, and Vivian as well at Runnymede, and I just think you're two wonderful, special people.
I think
We
when
both
we met,
you are
Yeah.
one
uh,
special.
when we met, I felt immediately kind of, you know, I felt so close to both, you know, so it
Yeah.
was quite nice. We had that instant kind of click.
Yeah.
And, absolutely. And that's what this is all about. And this is also what they don't have, you see, coming back to the Freemasons. They do not have that kind of connection between them. So they would literally
There's no love. There's no love. You said there's no love connection.
yes, so they would basically kill each other just to get the better deal of a business, right?
Wow.
So, and there is no camaraderie amongst them. It used to be so that they would look after each other. If someone would fall into financial difficulties, and then they would catch him. But if you are a failure or in any form or shape not beneficial to their order, they will drop you like a hot potato.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, it's not all like people presume within this order anymore. So especially now in this time, they don't have that oath which really counts anymore. So that's why I'm saying they have no empathy as well at all.
Yeah. And that's it.
It sounds like anarchy now. At least in the old days, even though they were evil, at least they had their own little gang and their brotherhood, and they cared for each other. But now it's just like every man for himself, and we're all like sticking into this dark magic, and it just sounds like anarchy and dangerous, truly dangerous now.
Absolutely, exactly. And so many, unfortunately, young people see in the 80s there was a big movement of occultism. Many people would come and experiment with Ouija boards and all this, you know. So the whole esoteric theme and the whole esoteric, you know, it's like a big business. That's what people, the whole New Age movement, you know. So all has to do with a lot of business. You have to be so careful what you take on. Even books which talk about yoga or any type of spiritual experiences or teachings, you need to be very, very selective, because many of the teachings are totally twisted around and distorted. They got sure that the original knowledge was totally withheld from the whole movement. So they would bring out purposely books which had completely false information. So you need to go back into books which, you know, maybe from 1920 or even earlier, who really would still contain the original knowledge. But especially in the 80s, they twisted a lot of things around. And I know that for sure, because I've deeply looked into that, and I've talked to people who are publishers. And many of them, especially in Germany, wouldn't be allowed to publish something unless it was changed.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
well, it's like the book, one of the most famous, like, kind of esoteric spiritual books for normal people would be The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, or Byrne, I think her name is, yeah? And most books, when you go into, like, Waterstones or the bookshop, and you go to the Mind, Body, Spirit section, a lot of people get excited thinking, oh my God, I'm going to find grace here. But I'm just thinking, fuck's sake, like, how basic are you? If they're selling it on a high street, or if it's a #1 best-selling New York Times book, which is a Rockefeller, like, come on, man, wake up. You got to, like, it's, you know, asking it's given. It's very basic. It's like law of attraction. They give you 2%, but to be honest, we're so damaged as humans that 2% feels like God. It's so powerful that you don't realize you're being deeply manipulated by this spiritual text.
Absolutely, you got it spot on.
You got it. That's brilliant. They put
that was very powerful. Yeah. Exactly, absolutely. So yes, they're you know, they only want, they have only their own interests. So they're trying to lure us in as much as they can through all sorts of different medias, and look at Facebook and all the other social media sites. You know, you need to be, again, so careful, because they're harvesting, of course, all the information from people who are on the right. well, you know. So and they have this filtration system where people, I mean, come on, you know, people are putting all sorts of personal information out there. They don't even have to try anymore. You know, so people are openly talking about what they do, what they
part of the culture.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It
By
is.
design.
Yeah. And people don't have real friends anymore. You know, they get depressed if they don't get a like, you know, on their stuff
true.
circulating.
So true.
So it's all really, really warped, and it's all there for one and the only reason and purpose to disconnect us, not only from each other, but from ourselves as well. You know, so if we don't know who we are anymore, then they can just fill that space with whatever they like, you know, and that's the power, that's the kind of tools they're using at the moment, you know, and hopefully I just pray every day that people are starting to follow this trend and just stop for a moment, just stop and think where you go with that, you know, so and the damage it does not only to yourself, but to your whole family. And this whole disconnection for your children, I would be very worried, you know, so the stuff they're teaching now in schools, I mean, not that it was always, not that there was a lot of very sensible stuff being learned in schools anyway, but now it's very, very manipulated. Yeah. In Germany, for example, now that is a fact. In Germany, because of our electronic devices, the frontal lobe area of the brain has been quite substantially shut down in most of the children, especially in the age group between 5 and 10.
Wow.
So in Germany now, they need to teach children what empathy is, because they don't have it. They don't know what it is. Wow. So that is extremely worrying. Wow. So I think that is a very dangerous path. So if you don't have any empathy anymore, then that's well,
you become a robot in a brain. You're like a left brain robot. You're easily manipulated, and also you'll willingly see pedophilia or death and like kind of not feel connected to that.
Exactly, and I think it's been commonly advertised now, so that we're all getting used to it as well, as we know. So all this is normalized now to talk on. I've seen just lately something really disturbing on Facebook. Not that I go on there at all, really, but it just popped up because someone tagged me in something, and I had a look, and it had to do with something quite disturbing to do with animals and humans, and I couldn't believe that they would put this up and allow this to be circulated on Facebook, and I thought, well, okay, but if I say something which is truthful against COVID or whatever, I've been taken off like in a minute, you know. But this stuff is circulating and circulating, so something is not quite right here, and I think people need to really wake up and see what's going on. So I think we are definitely on a track where we need to stand up as well. We need to unite. We need to stop this nonsense. And there are not many anyway. It's just the 1%, even if that, you know. And I think it's time now to stop being scared, or to just have this mentality that we have to bow, you know, for in front of people. And I think in this country, unfortunately, it has a little bit to do with the royals as well. So it's
feudalism.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Allowing monarchs and allowing people, like giving our sovereignty to higher people, you know.
Exactly. But they're not, are they? They're not higher.
It's funny, just while you're drinking, I wanted to read this. It's about the Hellfire Club that you mentioned. And it says, the Hellfire Club was the name of several exclusive clubs for high society rakes established in Britain. Yeah. And then I thought, what is a rake? And it basically says here that it is someone who's high in society, but who's perceived as doing immoral acts. So they wanted to do like immoral things, like, you know, be womanizers. They wanted to gamble away their estate. And so like these are the secret people that are meeting underneath that abbey that you just said. And these are, and like you said, but they're the 1%. Like, how many people are high society rakes? Like, no one. So, but they're the ones who've manipulated us to this point.
And it's quite disturbing because, see, those people, there's always some weird sexual kind of praxis going on.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's because they don't feel love, so their only fulfillment emotionally, if you can call it emotion, is to go into areas which are quite dark and quite seedy. And I find that always that it goes hand in hand with people who are in these kind of societies. They seem to have great pleasure in seeing someone suffer. And I do not understand how that works. You know, I don't get it. But it's definitely a part. They're all psychopaths. You know, that's the explanation. And you know,
I found a photo of Francis Dashwood, the man you was talking about, and it says here in this photo, it's like a painting of him, not a photo, obviously. It's from the 18th century, but it says the Bible has been replaced by a copy of an erotic novel. And it's like, so it's so like, I think other than God or the power of faith and true spirituality, sex is the most potent and powerful energy on the planet. It's the energy that creates life. And so these dark psychopaths, I think they can't play with God or spirituality. So that's the next thing that they can play with.
Oh God, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Totally
you're right.
Yes.
Because they do all this magic, don't they?
Yeah, see, my father unfortunately was one of the people who his area was sexual magic. So he most of his books and drawings, let's say very carefully here, have been highly disturbing, and that was something which I never really understood, and that's why we didn't really get on, because I found it just I'm a bit prudish in that way, you know. So and I find that some things, if it is in your head, then best maybe kept in your head, you know. But he was just on that path that he was harvesting that particular energy and using it for his magical work. So
also, Alex, was your mother also with your dad buying the artifacts? So they were together doing this, and wow,
they were together. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
They were working together. Both of them were involved in the orders as well, which is quite unusual because women are usually not a part of it, except if they are sexual magic. So then you have, of course, women being allowed to come into the order. So most of the orders have quite an understanding that you bring only someone into the order who you are related to, meaning your wife or your partner at the time. So I can say at least that. But the modern lodges now, that's a different take. So they would have very young girls who would be groomed into this situation, and they would be used against their will. So and that is very often again is to do with the fear, and that's where child trafficking comes into this as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Alex, can I ask you what your father's father was like? Did you know him? Was he a Mason? Was he into this?
I only met him once, because he was a very traditional guy, not very pleasant, to be honest. But then as a child, you have a stern German guy sitting in front of you with a long beard, you know, you think maybe not that friendly. But the emotions in my family, my mom was very, very emotional. But my father, he was emotional too. He wasn't like, he had also empathy for some things, you know, for animals as well. So he was a great animal lover. But so my granddad, I only met him once, and I don't know if he was actively in a lodge. However, they had a chain of hotels in the Black Forest. Right. So I presume that there was some form of a link, for sure.
So then, you know, he had grounding from a young age then of something. Yeah. And, you know, the like you said, he had empathy for some things, but to me, you've either got empathy or you haven't. Now, you can mimic empathy.
Yeah, you can.
You can.
Yeah.
People that mimic empathy and they come across as being really wonderful, you know, empathic people.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Well, look at Hitler. He killed so many people, but he was a vegetarian because he didn't want to hurt animals.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was. He lost his what was
But
it?
then there's another side of that, you know, being close with animals,
Yeah.
because you don't trust people.
Yeah.
What happened to him? That's what I'm thinking. What
Yeah.
happened to him to
To
be
change them. Yeah.
Well, but see, I was talking to some of the friends he had, and there were some which I would regard actually as quite pleasant characters. Not all of them were kind of involved in very deep, dark kind of, magic. So there was one guy who was he was very much interested in yoga and Far Eastern kind of mythology. So and he told me, and another guy, so they simultaneously said the same things when I was asking about my dad, because he did vanish a few times, in my lifetime. He had to disappear. So and I asked what's going on, and can you tell me if he had any problems? Or and I said that he never had any financial problems, but he did had very, very big issues with the lodge. So there was some form of a disagreement, and I think it has probably to do, and that's just my guess, that some of the artifacts got handed over, but I'm not sure.
right.
So that's the guess, yeah. But in the end, he was fleeing more or less, and the thing is that when you're in this particular lodge, you have 25 years of silence, so you have to be quiet, you can't talk about it. And so that's why maybe he disappeared, because he wasn't allowed to talk about it. I don't know. But the silence was broken anyway by someone else who was talking about the lodge. And hence, I knew that my mom even, told me from this lodge. So when I was 16 or so, that was the first time that she mentioned the lodge, and it just slipped her. It just slipped. So she didn't meant to talk about it, but she was scared, because they're quite unpleasant people, I guess, who are running or who are in this lodge, and they have, of course, they don't want to share their knowledge, or that they want to keep it secret. And these kind of powerful lodges have certain things to lose as well. So you don't, like the P2 lodge, when it all escalated, they've been basically outed by the government in Italy. So that's when they arrested quite a number of the P2 lodge members, because they had no other choice. So, and I think that's what they try to avoid. They want to keep it secret. The more secretive it is, the more powerful it is, and the better status, right? So,
in their minds, but it's just about to, everything is outed in the end, and this is where we are now. We're at a stage where the light's being shone on these situations.
Exactly.
The dark has to be brought out in the open, and everyone needs to know exactly what's going on.
See, if we all know about it, if we all talk about it, then more and more people are aware of it. And I know it sounds, for everybody out there who is listening to this and thinking, yeah, right, so it is true. These people are operating on a huge scale, and it goes into a lot of companies, banks, so everything is controlled by them. That is true.
Yeah.
But it is just money, right? They cannot dictate who we are and where we're going. So, and that's what we need. We need to liberate ourselves from this fear as well, because don't be fearful, because they're not that powerful, to be honest. They can make your life difficult, like I had experienced when they tried to shut me down, but I still got through, and I'm still sitting here. So,
but you was obviously, in a time where not so many people, or we're in different times now, Alex, especially since 2020, since the Great Awakening. You know, you've got the attention now of millions of people who want to get to the truth, and shows like this, it gives chance for people to, like you, to come out and tell your stories. You're telling people not to be fearful, which is absolutely fantastic. And we can only go forward now, exposing the truth about it, to stop all these secret satanic
they're sick individuals, and it's you know what is the sad thing about it is that the chain can only be broken if we stop people benefiting. Oops. I'm losing. I have only 9% battery left. The problem is that so many people are benefiting from these lodges. So when you have child traffickers, for example, right? So they get paid huge amounts of money to steal those children and provide and deliver them to those sick individuals. So that's the kind of thing, you know, which we need to stop. And it can only be stopped if the governments also stop being a part of it. And that's the point, you know, that's the problem. It's also corrupt. And that's why they are still operating in such so successfully. If they and that counts for everything and anything else as well, for the whole pharmaceutical company, you know, who's keeping people sick, and so on. So, and it can only stop if people are really realizing what is really truly going on around them. And then we have to stop this from happening jointly, all together. The more people know what's going on as well, if they, because many of those monies being circulated in areas where people really think that it's there for a good cause, but they're all using all sorts of screens and operate behind it. And that needs to be disclosed to people so that people can stop supporting these kind of companies who are behind this kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, all these companies, they need to be boycotted.
Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, thank the Lord Creator. More people are now waking up.
Yeah. Yes.
See that now every day. And they've got to understand now that they're finished, they're on the way out.
Yes, so they are truly. Yes, that is true, because we are now at the. I think they know that. Yes, that's why they're cares as well, in a way. Not that they're too worried at this point, but there are some signs of unrest, and that's when they start to inflict more violence on us.
Yes.
Start to manipulate our nature even more. So, you know, to keep us all really nicely and tidy in this kind of fear factor. Not only that, they have great pleasure seeing everybody completely terrified and in fear, because that's their sweet, right? That's their that's a dessert. So and so sick it sounds, but that's really what they like, you know. And it's like they're harvesting this energy, and they're really sick individuals in that matter. So they would see, they pay people. I mean, come on, we all know what's going on, you know, when we talk about not just child trafficking, but human trafficking in general, organ harvesting, and all these kind of things which are going on, which is absolutely vile. But it is happening, you know, so people need to know that this is not just a movie, some horror film. This is actually the truth. This is what happens.
To be honest, Alex, it's everything. You know, I know, Angie, you just said we've got to boycott these companies, but if we was to do that, I wouldn't be able to be on this Apple MacBook that I'm talking to you on. I'd have to give up my iPhone. I would have to, like, everything.
I know what you're saying, but we can do what we can.
We can do, yeah, you're so right. It's about, like, looking at the major ones. Like Alex has mentioned Siemens today. I think, you know.
Exactly. I mean, I remember seeing that name for the first time when I was abroad, and I thought,
you dirty cunts. Like, exactly.
Who the hell would name it?
Siemens,
But what is Siemens? It is the life force. It is the most powerful force on the planet. So it's just like, it's in your face, really.
Yes, see all these old companies, I mean, you know, car companies, whatever, you know, they're all playing with the symbolism anyway. They're all using different logos, you know, which we all now come from very magical backgrounds.
Very magical. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, this is going back now many years, and when I started to try and find a name for the product, it was really difficult because I tried to find a suitable name which was somehow meaningful. And you know, most of the spiritual names, most of the names which would represent some form of a meaning, guess who they most of the companies who taken them up already were companies who were connected to IT companies. IT companies who would, you know, use star-related names and planets and whatever, you know. So it was really bizarre, and I'm thinking, yeah, right, you know.
Even names that we thought we'd made up. When we checked it out, it was an IT company registered at Company's House.
Yeah, so they're using these kind of very mystical names for a reason.
Or they use demonic names, don't they? I know in NHS, a lot of the tablets like Xanax, all of the, it's actually, you could trace it back to like an actual demon somewhere.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Now I know that many people are into angels, but and the belief in angels and the names of angel numbers and all this kind of stuff. But you have to be very careful there, because there are some angel names which are actually connected to demon names which have been previously, like, and we're talking now a few hundred years back, been associated with very dark lodges. And then in the time, in the 80s especially, when people started to pick up, the whole esoteric scene picked up. So they would use these particular names of angels and would integrate them into something which appeared to be positive.
Wow.
So, you know,
do you have any examples, like Archangel Michael, anything like that? Anyone that you could comment on?
Doreen Virtue.
Doreen Virtue turned into a demon. We all know that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, didn't she say she renounced everything that she'd done, didn't she?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Doreen Virtue, she was one of the people actually who was actively involved in a Wicca. It's a Wicca group, like a Wiccan. So and she was known to be one of the leading person. You know, what was it called again? Forgotten the circle of it. But yeah, so she was very deeply involved in these kind of things. And then suddenly the next thing which I noticed was that she was bringing out these angel cards and the books. And
angel
everything.
numbers.
I thought, oh,
I have that book.
Yes.
me too.
I had them.
Cards. I bought loads of stuff, and then a few years ago, then all of a sudden she started advertising. Oh, we've got to turn to the Bible. She denounced the lot. She denounced the lot, and
it's all about the blood of Jesus Christ and stuff.
Yeah, she put this book out, 365 days that you know you can follow every. And I sent her a message, and I was like, "What the fuck? We people around this planet have spent millions of dollars buying your products, and all of a sudden you switch. Don't use the cards. Don't do this.
Absolutely.
So too late. You've already had the money. And money. Are you prepared to reimburse everybody now? I mean, I was so angry.
Yeah.
So what are we suggesting, that Doreen Virtue basically connected millions of people to demons on purpose?
Pretty much.
Do you think she did?
Do
you think she knowingly did it, or do you think she discovered that she'd been fooled as much as she'd fooled the rest of us?
Okay, when it comes to these kind of authors who are digging into old history, right? That's my take on it. I might be wrong, but very often you come to very powerful beings, and what you want to have is a new idea which you can public and you can benefit from financially. And also you want to be like a pioneer in the field, so that you will be remembered and you kind of have a pretty easy run that way. So and very often people would lean towards entities who would be extremely powerful. And I don't want to name too many, like Asteroid or whatever, you know. So there are many kind of demons which came from Babylonian times, so and previously. So and these kind of names have been used and slightly distorted as well. So we have to be very careful that we look also sometimes behind the wording, because some of the wording can read in different ways. Even some have been read, back to front or whatever. So, but very often these kind of entities would have been used for a purpose of catapulting your business into something quite successful. And especially when it comes to angels, or you just have to do a little bit of your research. Just don't take everything for granted. Just kind of look into it, look where the source is coming from, look up this particular entities, which they're promoting, and see where it comes from, and trace it back a little bit. Now it's a little bit difficult as well, I have to say, because Google is not so openly giving you that information anymore, strangely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you could have had that information quite easily about 10 years ago or so. But now it seems like soon as you put in certain names, and even if they are demon named, it's very limited knowledge coming through, and just a few hints here and there. So you need to really know how to research it if you still get anywhere. The best thing is really that weapon yourself with old books. And just go into books like, for example, the Grimoire Amadel. Gives you a great example of all the entities which they use in magic, right? So, but it gives you a very good idea. Do I have this here? I have something. Anyway, so yes.
You're gonna have to spell that for us if you can. Maybe the accent is quite hard.
All right, okay, hold on.
Hold on. You get where's my phone?
I'm just getting mine.
But yeah, while you're searching for that, like basically anything that's new age is basically no doubt, just the furthest thing from the truth, really, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. See, when I started, and that was quite interesting in the 80s when I started to research and I was looking into books. I had a friend, and she was a Jehovah's Witness of all things, and she said to me, she said, this is all wrong. This is all coming from Satan. And first I thought she was completely crazy, so I thought, how can you say this? So this is just something very harmless. It's new age, is kind of a new aeon for people, and all this. What's it called? Whichever. So, but when I started to research it, I kind of thought more and more, actually, you have a little bit of point here. Not all of it is demonic, but some of it you have to really be careful before you take it on and integrate in your personal belief system. So that's so the Grimoire.
It's Grimoire. It's Grimoire. Grimoire. It's like the textbook of magic.
I get a different book to show. Just one moment.
So that's GRIM.
OIRE. So it's Grimoire.
Got it. Yeah. A grimoire is a textbook of magic, typically including instructions on how to create magical objects like talismans and amulets, how to perform magical spells, charms, and divinations, and how to summon or evoke supernatural entities such as angels, spirits, deities, and demons.
Yeah, that's the one. I think Alex is just getting the one that we have. I don't think this is, no, that's not that one. Oh, this is a really special book. If you really want to get some good books that will teach you something, go to Glastonbury and go to the, what's that bookshop called? What's that book? The Courtyard Books.
Yeah.
And the guy there is...
Courtyard Books, Glastonbury.
Courtyard Books, yeah.
They have a good antiquariate. So one of the books, the Grimoire is basically an absolute must-have for people who are not only into magic but want to expose magic. So because it gives you a great insight of what the entities are which they are using. And they give also there's also very often the sigils or sigils with it. So because many of those entities have their own language and their own blueprint. Yeah. So these blueprints are embedded very often in our society without us knowing. So it could be in a product or by watching a movie or whichever. So they're integrated all around us.
Wow.
insight.
I think maybe it wouldn't be such a good book for like youngsters getting hold of it.
I
and
don't think so. No, I don't
only
think so.
definitely to people,
No.
only people who are really using it for research purposes.
and research and outing
Make very, very clear.
because
This is
it
also
sounds
education. Do not ever use anything in there for any praxis at all. It's just for yourself to see what is going on. See, in my opinion, and that's why I own these books, I needed to know. So it's not for me to use this knowledge. This is just be absolutely aware and to know what language they're talking about. Because you can all say, oh, we expose them and we know what they're doing, but are we really knowing what they're doing? So if we know which tools they are using, then we basically can expose them much quicker because we're tapping into their knowledge as well.
So you can't have this. Alex has been pecked here.
So the other,
Alex, do you have the grimoire book just to show us what the cover?
I haven't got the grimoire. No, I used to have it. I don't know where I put it. I
found this. Does that look familiar at all?
No, that's I have a different version. I have the old version.
Of course.
Again, yes.
Because
So
we're old.
that's also another one here, which is
The Game of Saturn. Oh my God, yes.
The Game of Saturn. Now, this book is very, very interesting.
This is very special. Listen to this.
So you have, I don't want to show too many images, but you have images. I'll show you just a very plain image. And they are like tarot cards. So a number of them. However, they are not tarot cards. So they're disguised as tarot cards, right? The point is that each of the cards were connected to one family in the high society.
Oh my gosh.
So, and they would bear certain symbols which would read as a form of a memory blueprint, so that the people who are involved in this, they would learn about it, they would learn about the symbolism. And then the families involved, yes, sorry. And they would learn as much as possible about the subject, so that in the next life, they would come back to this planet with already that knowledge. And
into the same families.
Yeah.
They reincarnate into the
We
same.
spoke about this, haven't we, Angie? We spoke about this. People that have they reincarnate into the same family and knowledges and stuff. They're trying to hold it into the bloodline.
That's what they use. That's what they're using.
Okay, that makes sense.
I found it on Courtyard Books, by the way, so people just
see,
and he spoke on these lines, and he had a picture on his bedroom wall of a 5-year-old child from, I don't know, 1800s, 1700s or something, and he said that was me, and I believed him.
Yeah.
You know, he spoke about, and this is why they have trusts as well.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Trust.
Always runs in the family.
They just come back to the same family.
Over and over and over again. So it's always the same ones.
And that's why they're also very often in one family. And now remember the 99 Lodge who has one member, which is a demon.
Yeah.
Very often they have also someone in the family who has some form of a physical disability.
Yeah.
That is true. So and
it's
very often connected to not just a weakness in their lineage, but a price they pay.
Yeah.
And that's not knowledge I have come up with. That's something I've been told.
And I believe you, Alex, and I can't talk about how I know that, but I know you're telling the truth.
Yeah.
I know.
Because we don't know if there was any in our family from the past, present, but whatever.
But listening to Selwyn's segment, there's a great possibility that it was in our family, a massive possibility.
Yeah.
So
I think it's in everyone's family, to be honest. They're such parasites, and it goes back so many generations that there's got to be someone in every one of our families
Yeah. I'm sure
were
we
willing.
can trace back to somebody. Yeah.
Of course.
God.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
I mean,
With their reach
you know,
as well.
there's one incident, one chap who, you know.
So if we can open the door and help more people come out, redeem themselves, the fear is of leaving because of the consequences if they do, you know, uncovering the secret. I mean, do you know, to be honest, it's very boring now. I mean, I've looked at this for years. So that they have made themselves you know, high and mighty power. But as you say, which I think is going to bring comfort to a lot of people, Alex, is that the younger generations are now being sloppy. They're not so organised or whatever. And it's just like
it's time.
The kids
Yeah, I
are
was going to say that. Never the time.
Yeah.
it's the
Definitely.
time.
Yeah.
And it's so needed.
Time to say
And it's no longer an isolated situation. There are millions awake now.
Yeah.
So we're not all on our own, and scared.
We're not the crazy conspiracy. Yeah, exactly. Because they made us all out to be the crazy ones, you know. So
yes, exactly.
Some companies who could be possibly involved in some magical praxis, you know. So, but now people are seeing actually much more what's really going on, you know. And also, as you say, that they get displaced, displacent. Is it displacent?
Complacent.
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 Not displacent. Yeah, they should be displaced, but yes.
Both, yeah.
Yeah, so they're getting too big-headed, you know. So they're treading too much.
They're getting cocky.
Yes, that's the word.
Yeah.
And I have seen some of them tumble quite a lot in Germany, especially still when I was even there, which is now like over 30 years ago. I could see that there was a big change in the old magicians and the new magicians. And the old ones would be, to be honest, I have to say, they had integrity, and they would have
and
loyalty to each other, and there would be also not necessary overstep the line.
They followed a set of rules.
That's
they
right.
respected those rules.
But the new ones were ruthless and reckless, and they would not care about hurting anybody. They would not think twice.
But they're also sloppy.
Even if it is their own kind. So, and I could see definitely, and there were only like one generation in between.
Wow.
Which is really interesting to see that. But yes, it was completely different. And the greed and the money was a huge aspect. Because, see, for the old magicians, it wasn't so much the money, it was the knowledge. It was really about knowing as much as possible. And they knew that this is the only thing they can take with them and possibly come back if they and have a bigger status if they have still that knowledge attached to them from the previous life.
But the new ones seem to be more dependent on technology, don't they? They don't feel that they have to have the knowledge because they've got something to do.
Well, that's why they're looking for the AI, because the AI is basically that step away from them, so they can put something into an AI and get into a reincarnation and then get connected to an AI again. So there's much more to it, to the whole AI movement, than we can see. This is not just about control and replacing humans. This is
I agree.
The ultimate power. This is just something, you know, where they can
and they live forever.
Connect to machines and live forever. This is like their dream come true. There's no more laws, which physical law holding them back.
Yeah.
In Buddhism, we would call this the Saha world, and it's the world where you keep reincarnating and you keep reincarnating. And the aim of Buddhism is to achieve enlightenment and to find your Buddhahood. But it seems that these people, they want to remain, in a way, it's like they want to be a big fish in a small pond. We know that the cosmos is eternal, but they want to just keep this little prison planet for themselves and keep us incarnated in that. You might see my tattoo. It's the classic flower of life tattoo. I discovered that actually it's a bit of a new age piece of bullshit, and it actually represents something called Metatron's Daisy of Death. And so a lot of spiritual people have the flower of life all around them, but what it actually represents is a very flat 2D image where you just keep reincarnating. And if you knew the actual flower of life, Mandy and Angie, it's exactly like the Taurus field, like the apple. It's like an infinite flow, and it's not this. I'm very lucky though. Luckily, I've got the Buddha sitting on top of this, so I made a whole story to explain why I've got this tattoo on me now. But that's what it means. It's like all the symbols and stuff, the things that we feel are positive, they're all inverted, and and they just want to keep us. They also want us to just keep reincarnating, so that they call us the goyim or the cattle.
Goyim.
Goyim, sorry,
They call us wetware.
yeah,
No, you know, as we said earlier, we've got to take this back.
Yeah.
We've got to take these symbols back. And it's I actually believe, regardless of their magic or whatever, it's your intent.
Yeah.
What you feel that is on your arm. It's you. Because you're more powerful.
Very true. See, that's exactly how magic works. See,
Yes.
This guy who I was, this Professor Hemberer, one thing he told me in the very beginning, he said, the most powerful magic can only work if you believe in it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Wow.
True.
So if we don't believe in their bullshit, then it can't.
Exactly, Vivian.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really, really true. So
I don't believe any of it. I really don't. I've been a sucker for a bit of new age nonsense. So I have to hold my hand up.
Hands up.
Sorry, Virtue. Thank you for that. I've still got that book on my dressing table to remind me what a thicko I can be.
I think
But it's not even about being a thicko, she manipulated us well. I was sitting there doing the 365. I was praying to she was bringing me Archangel Michael in and all of these things. And I think that is some truth to it. But it's when you realize, to be honest, I'm more of an occultist now. When you realize occultism is so deep, it's like, whoa, why would I read this book?
Not necessarily evil. And what does that mean anyway?
Well, yeah, occult just means hidden teachings. If I'm right, it's not biased to evil or good.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's just, see, that's what the media makes out of it as well. And that's why we have to be careful.
It's become associated with the word
exactly.
evil.
So, and when in the 80s, I was talking about the Ouija board, for example, my God, so it was dedicated, it was renowned to be like the gateway to hell and make a pact with the devil. But it was just like a board, and people were probably pushing themselves, the glass back and forward. But that's a different story. So, but the whole occultism was thriving at the time, again, on fear and secrecy. So a lot of children would go and buy books about all sorts of different satanic practices, and like the Necronomicon, a very famous book which came out in the 80s, and it was published by Richard Tchaikovsky. He had an antiquariat in Berlin, and he was the owner.
That's a bookshop, an antiquariat.
I know that now. I learned that from the last one.
Didn't you?
So he brought out the first Necronomicon onto the market, which was published from the original. The original was handed down to actually all the lodges, and there were only so many copies available. So they would all have just one book. And then later there was this other publication. It originated from an Arab who was known to be a crazy Arab, by the way. And his name was, I think, Abdul al-Hazret or something like that. So then he published, there were letters which were found, I think it was in the desert where he buried them or something like that. And so then they got later published, and it had to do with using magic to go through the gates, to the gateways, right? And getting that knowledge that way. Now, the problem was that most people, and there was a film, what was that film, that crazy film, something with death, where the hatch was and someone was in the floor, so living under the hatch.
I've seen so many horror films since
it was a film from the 80s, way back when we all got, I can't remember it. But that film got banned because it contained a ritual which was from the Necronomicon. Wow. This film banned, I think, for over 10 years, I believe, and until it then got released again.
Not The Exorcist.
No.
Did they, when it got released, did they keep the scene in, or did they remove it?
No, it still had the same scene in where they read from the Necronomicon.
What is it? Can you not remember? Okay, go and Google film from the 80s where someone's living under a hatch.
It was there
I'm doing it. I'm actually doing it.
Do
It
it.
was a cabin in the woods.
A cabin in the
And
woods.
some guys would go there, and then they would have this kind of mad 80s party where they would read out of the Necronomicon, and then they would evoke something really awful in this.
And
cabin.
then they'd all go out into the woods by themselves, like you do, and get killed. No,
it was in the cabin. So that's when they all started to turn and.
Oh, I remember this now.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I think. Wait, just a
I can't
second.
remember the name.
I wouldn't, because I never watched horror films. I used to think to myself, right, before I knew what was going on behind it, I used to think, for somebody who can think up such evil, vile, disgusting stuff to make a film out of it, I don't want to watch it.
I never watched that movie, that one particular, because I was too young anyway.
Yeah.
But
In the 80s, you were not. Don't lie.
no, I had a vivid imagination. I would not watch that stuff because it would haunt me. By mistake, I watched the horror movies through the door of our living room. You know, my parents were watching it, and it haunts me even today. So, but yeah, but the point is that the Necronomicon was a really famous book, and what happened was that kids or teenagers would do rituals on graveyards and such, and evoke all the spirits, and using the original rituals, which were printed black and white in this book, and it wasn't changed at all. The first edition had all the original rituals in it.
So it would work.
So and something.
Whoa.
Something quite awful happened to many of those children. So then the church in Germany, the Catholic Church, would ban the book, and it got banned, and they were forced to change the sequence of the rituals or something. So they had to do something out so it wouldn't inflict on people anymore. So, but that was a really famous book. Sorry, now we have the dog.
The friend.
This one.
Got another family friend.
So that was a very, very famous book. The Book of the Death. That's what it's called. It's translated. It's Necronomicon, necromancer, right? It's people. It's the art of
necromancy.
Yeah, necromancy. Yeah. So
I thought that there was that Vivian. Yeah.
So it all has to do with that. But that's just one book. There were quite a sequence of books in the 80s which they unleashed to the public to get so much interest as possible. And that particular thing just happened very recently again. So there's always a repeat. And we had all this huge interest. Just look at all the films and the series about witchcraft and vampires and all this kind of stuff coming out. So we had a bit of relaunch of the same situation which happened in the 80s. And that's because they need to do that from time to time to get the young people to be interested in these kind of right?
Normalize it.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Harry Potters of the world, all of that.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God,
exactly.
yeah.
That was really epic, wasn't it? So that was very well.
Well, she was well rewarded for her part in that, wasn't she, Rowling?
Well, I know the brother of the man that that found her. And it was the family said to me straight, don't believe it. Like they're all Masons. Like don't believe a word. She's not just an innocent woman that's sitting in a cafe that made this book. Like it was a deep plan. It was all part of it. She's a Mason herself. She's even got like Masonic tattoos. You just need to know what you're looking for. But they basically bring witchcraft and warlocks and Satanism to children, and they're saying all of these spells. Like they're actually saying. So apparently, some of them are actually pretty dangerous. You know.
Oh yeah, absolutely, exactly. See, when she says, "Oh, I've done all this research," and yeah, you did. You know, you actually, actually disclosing something which should never be disclosed in the first place.
Yeah, and to children, like you said,
absolutely.
there she was sitting in that cafe in Edinburgh, a single mum in the cafe all day, keeping warm, right?
Yeah. What a joke! What a fucking joke! Like,
it's a nice story, though, eh?
It is, but they have to try and make it relatable. They have to make single mums have to be like, oh, that could have been me. Yeah, right. You're gonna make a book that makes £1 billion. Good luck. Like,
So they go and buy the
Yes,
book
yeah,
for the
exactly.
kids. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of those kind of success stories, and many of those tools which they're using are through children, of course. You know, so children are very their inspiration and imagination is just like a sponge, isn't it? So
Yeah.
they can easily apply these kind
They
of
soak it all
stories.
up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once it evokes an interest, then that's the first way into your brain, isn't it? That's the first kind of the curiosity which is awoken. So, and then many of the children would just also get hooked on it. I mean, they all want to be Harry Potter or whoever from
yeah.
Irony, all this.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So yeah, but it's just different tools. And again, you know, so coming to one of the characters, which is probably most notoriously known, which is Aleister Crowley. So he was known as the B666 and things like that. So
$5.99. That's cheap.
that's a price tag. I mean, but
he's got a price tag on him. It's $5.99.
At least that's a 166.
sorry,
No, sorry, a 266. But a B becomes 2.
Oh, you're doing the numbers thing.
yeah.
I can't figure out how Tom Numbers does the numbers. I don't understand. He does it so quick. And
A is 1, B is 2, C
yeah.
is
So I get that, but he only seems to add it up to a certain point. Like I would keep going until I only had one.
We'll have to have him on again just for you, Vivienne.
All right.
I did ask him to
Let's see if he'll come on again.
but you know what, today's been absolutely incredible. It's
yeah.
Oh man, just getting better and better, man.
Oh, we just stay. Yeah.
So just to kind of conclude, Alex, like in a sense, the way that we're going to be able to change this is unity, kind of courage, and I'm guessing each of us have to find a philosophy for our own that really instills the power of God or whatever it is within us, so we recognize I actually have the courage to do this.
Yes, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
totally right.
Absolutely.
You know, we all can stand up and do not fear.
We need to lose the fear.
There is nothing they can do to you.
And we've
The only
started
thing-
pushing back
The
already.
only power they have now anyway is the power of money.
Yeah.
And that's all they have. They have lost the tools they had previously, and they have gambled them away for money.
And that's why they're doing all this crap with the energy bills and, you know, all these electricity suppliers coming around and changing meters and all this stuff.
stealing the car.
Yeah.
Vivienne, yesterday the council was sending people around from Keep Britain Tidy to look into people's recycle bins.
Yeah.
To do what? For what?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I went outside and I said, well, to do what? I said, what's this for? So you're going to start, finding people.
Yeah.
That was literally picking up the recycling bin and using the tablet. They said that was from the Keep Britain Tidy. And then obviously you talk a bit longer and you realise they've been contracted by the council.
There you go. There she was in a dressing gown, talking to him. As he was checking out the bin.
Going through the bin.
The audacity.
Keep it tidy. Well, what was she checking the bin for?
Well, I guess it's all part of like the social credits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if she finds wine bottles in your recycling, then you get £5 less next week or something.
Well, that's what will happen when they bring in the CBDCs. You'll have little microchips on everything. If they find that you've put like cardboard in the plastic, they're going to be like, well, we're going to have to take some of your digital money away this week. It's already happening in Nigeria, so the fact that it's going to happen here real soon.
That's right, Aaron. There you go. You've got it right there. Yeah. So you see, they're finding ways how to tax us, and tax us again.
Yeah, and there's another one. That was the one across the street, right outside the police station.
Yeah.
Talk about taxing again. I had 3 speeding tickets, 4 speeding tickets since December.
Yeah.
Wow.
And did you consent to those speed cameras coming up?
No.
Did they?
I've returned everything. I've returned no consent, no contract. Thank you very much the offer, but no. But I mean, I think they just ignore everything that you send back to them anyway. But one of them, I was caught doing 31.5 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And yet I was doing, I can't remember.
And it
what
was policeman. Actually, it was a handheld thing. He
Oh,
jumped
so
out.
that's dangerous because he's actually aiming a radiation machine at you. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
But he shouted at me, and it was like, honestly. And then I thought, oh my God, I felt a bit targeted, to be honest. I've never had a speeding ticket in my entire driving career, and now I've got 4. So if you put the points, I haven't given my name. I've said that I'm not a driver, that I'm traveling in the car, but I'm not. It's not a commercial vehicle, therefore I can't be classed as a driver, and I haven't signed anything. So whatever.
And also, it's just like lawful. Like, what law was broken? Who was hurt? What
no one was hurt.
You know?
No victim.
There's no victim.
But they're trying so hard now to control us. Anyway.
But they're trying to get us.
Here, for example, just around the corner and everywhere on every country road now, they are digging up the roads, and we all know what it's for.
They're putting in the utilized cameras, so they're doing it. Beginning with our village is a main street that goes all the way through, and at the beginning and the end, from one end to the other, they've put in new bollards, and they're preparing. The open reach vans have been there putting the cables in, so that's probably for the ULEZ cameras. I'm not. I honestly.
And the 15-minute cities and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Well, I wrote
all satanic.
Yeah.
I wrote to the council and asked for confirmation of what they were doing and how it would be implemented in a county like Cornwall, where it is mostly rural, and most people are 20 minutes away from shops and stuff. Some people have to drive half an hour just to get to a shop to do the shopping. And he said, I got an email back, which I kept a copy of. It says, we have no plans to implement any 15-minute zones or low traffic neighborhoods or anything of the sort. They're there. Their plans are all there for everyone to see on the internet.
The liar.
Yeah, because we have someone who has sent a secret filming of a counselor talking about exactly that. It's just a different name they used.
You see, maybe I didn't get the right name, but it is what it is. It's 15 minutes. It's restricted. It's basically a gulag, isn't it? It's an open prison.
This is how they're attacking us right now, and we've just got to say no. I prefer to put them on notice because I like to collect the evidence, because later on, if you serve notice on somebody, you can move to a lien.
Yeah.
Ultimately, but you cannot do that without serving notice.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Right.
What's the lien for somebody who's really?
Well, anyway, we'll save that for another show, and we'll discuss that.
Yeah.
Off point now of what this show is for, and it's been, I think it's nearly 2.5 hours now.
Really?
Actually,
it's our longest, but I would say it's the most engaged I've been the entire time. Both of you, you're absolute. You've been sent by someone higher to help humanity heal. We need healing now. We need truth. We need light. We need vulnerability. We need transparency. We need unity, community,
connectedness. We need to be connected again.
Yeah.
Strong.
Yes,
And I do hear a lot of people, Alex was saying earlier that the grids have all been kind of compromised on the planet, the power grids, the ley lines, but I am hearing globally, even like over the last few years, brothers and sisters are gathering together to do like strict prayer there, or to put crystals and to like rebalance the energy of the planet. And I think once...
We all need to start doing. Yes.
All need to do it, yeah.
They know what we need to use. Like they'll always organize a fake protest on a full moon or something, and they know they got their satanic calendar. Well, it's time that we use the full moons and astrology and stuff.
And we took it all back.
This is ours to start with. They don't belong here. These creatures really don't belong here.
They need to F off. This is not our planet. It's not theirs. They need to toddle off now.
When they came in the first place, which is many, many thousands of years ago, pre-Babylonian times. So they already enslaved humans then to build the Garden of Eden, and there are huge records available to look at, Sumerian records, and they tell you exactly how the story is being how it all was. So, and in history, so it's not the first time they have done it, and they have continued to do so through all the centuries. And it's really time now to stop this.
Yeah, I mean,
So
people don't realize they're slaves because they think they have freedom, but
they don't have freedom. That's not freedom.
No, it's not freedom. Of
Yeah.
course, we know that because they can go on holiday and because they've got a car, they've got a nice car and they've got a nice, but they're taxed to the hill. They've got the work. They have to work every minute they can. It's slavery.
Mm.
You know, Alex, when you spoke about you know, like sort of honor among men within, you know, within the Masons, the older ones, if there are any older ones left that have not been involved in satanic ritual abuse and anything, you know, the like involving kids, then it's time they got together now.
Yeah.
Are there any?
Well, I spoke to someone whose name was Walter Englert. He was actually the Grandmaster of the Ordo Templi Orientis in Frankfurt. So, and he told me something which was quite interesting. He said, yes, there are Satanists. He didn't classify himself as one, but there are Satanists. And he said, you know, the funny thing is that there are two types of Satanists. One who would sacrifice children and the other one wouldn't.
Wow.
Right. So what the other one, what
would the other one do then?
Yeah.
Well, the other ones, he said that there is a cliche attached to the ones which were more the modern type of Satanists who would drink blood, who would sacrifice children, who would kill animals, you know, these kind of things, because they need to find a different source of energy to enhance the rituals they're doing. While the other ones who have the deep knowledge of doing so do not need to do that. That was the difference.
So basically, it's like there's like the basic Satanists, and then the ones that actually have the true occult knowledge. But they cheat, and so they're just like, let's just use the blood of children just to get there quicker.
That's exactly it. It's a shortcut.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
yeah.
Damn. Yeah. And also, I'm right. There's also quite a major difference between Satanists and Luciferians.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
definitely.
gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that there's all these classifications and all these differences within all the whole scene of occultism and magic. So, and that's why we need to be careful not to brush it all on the same brush.
Same brush, yeah.
But no, don't tie them all with the same brush.
So
right. Okay, so
it doesn't mean that one is less harmless than the other, because they're all pretty much working with very
they're all
dark
working
energy,
with the same
okay?
with the same vicious intent.
But they don't do as damage, because most of them who are, let's say, coming off from a knowledgeable side, and they would have maybe their own little circle of magic and they would work in it, would do that with consent of the other people working together with them. While the other ones who are going and killing children and killing animals are not asking for their consent and would just take what they need.
Who would consent anyway?
That sounds like the modern Masons, Alex. That's like earlier you were saying they're just getting more and more desperate and they want more and more power. Well, if that's the case, that means more and more children need to be sacrificed.
That's what it sounds like, desperation, doesn't it? It's desperation because they know
power,
they're losing.
The more offerings that they need to provide, right? So in history that has been done, sometimes, you know, if you look into the history of war, let's just take war. War is one of the big sacrifices. Wars are being kindled to actually enhance a certain energy so that they can harvest it. That there you have offerings.
And there's wars
constantly,
right? Isn't there, going on around the world?
Exactly. So, you know, they have all sorts of different tools. And if they wanted, when, for example, 9/11 happened, now that was great because it was on television. So you could harvest instantly the whole change of frequencies amongst everybody
who was watching
globally, you know. So that's great. Feeding their needs.
That's why they did it, yeah. And can you remember that? I remember the day I was off and I was staring at that screen and just crying. It was hideous, wasn't it?
Yes. So they are very knowledgeable how they can harvest very disturbing energy and make use out of it. And unfortunately, the more disturbing this energy is, the bigger the result they desire.
Oh gosh.
I mean, this is what's horrendous about them. But after speaking to Selwyn and getting the comprehension of these people, you can say that some drink the blood and some don't. However, his explanation of it, at every single level, they're actually cursing their own families.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
So there's
No
no
loyal-
side to this. There is no good side to this, people.
No, no,
That's
not
what I said.
They're not even human.
That's
are
why I
they?
said they would even sacrifice their own children. You
They
know, so
would.
they would and have done. So
But they
that,
bring curses at each level, and every level depicts a part of the body. And Selwyn said in our last video that you can tell the level of a Freemason to what illnesses are in that family.
predominantly in
That family.
Yeah.
So they curse their own family at every single level of Freemasonry. I thought it was just after the 33 degrees. No. So I think it's becoming more ruthless.
no, it is.
Society.
So they're also panicking because they know that they've been in the limelight now. They know people know about it. So they're a bit like an animal. No, this is actually a bad thing because I don't want to put that onto animals. But it's like a creature which
They're
is
like
running
reptiles,
scarce,
aren't they?
right? So they're being found out. And what do you do when you found out? You get even more crazy.
Yeah.
Like a cornered rat or something.
Yes.
That is happening right now, all the way through. Everyone speaking up. We're all being attacked on our platforms and wherever. But you know what? God prevails.
Yeah.
God wins. So they carry on with their what they think they're going to getting away with, and are clearly not, because we're shedding the light on it, and the whole world is waking up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Love
Exactly.
will prevail.
Yes, it is time, and I think they know that. As I said, I know they know, because how the world is going at the moment, and they're upping all this fear about our global situation, you know,
Global
nature,
warming.
global warming. You know, just look what's happened. But they're inducing this technology to change nature and to what is it called again? I forgot the name. Geoengineering, right? So they're using that tool a lot at the moment to bring up the fear.
To prove that the planet is in a critical state, and we've all
Everyone believes Greta Thunberg. Yeah. And
God,
all of the trees are burning, and the ice is melting, and it's just a joke, man. It's a
How
joke.
dare you? How
Exactly.
dare you?
The planet was in a critical state because of them, but they're on the.
You know what it is? You know, this planet is changing all the time. The difference is this: when we were in ancient times, we were living within these cycles, and we were part of it. So we would know exactly when things like that happened. And one of the things which I researched in Göbekli Tepe was how knowingly those people would prepare themselves for the big flood to arrive. So they were in tune with nature, and they would know what happened.
Yeah.
So see, there's a difference here. So if we would be more switched on and more in tune with nature again, there would be no reason to be fearful, because we would prepare ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just a part of nature. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with carbon and all this, you know. So this is completely ridiculous.
Well, we're the carbon that they want to get rid of. We are the carbon.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're spot on there.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I think they're running out of options as well, because, you know, when you can see how they jump now from one thing to another, and it's getting really like ridiculous.
What are they going to come up with next?
Yeah. Yes. But, you know, I think they will run really soon out of options. The only thing which my dad said, which was a bit of concern, is that unfortunately they're still sitting next to the trigger point. And that's something which people need to be aware of. They need to be
like the button.
Yes, so they need to be removed from those positions where they're in this.
They need to be removed
power.
from positions of power. There needs to be evolution.
Yeah, I believe that a lot of that has already happened. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think we'd be living right now
No.
even having this conversation.
We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah,
That's
but, yeah. No, I think you have a good point there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, maybe back then it was that, you know, your dad was right, but I think now where we are now,
Yeah.
no, a lot of it's already been removed. I wholeheartedly believe that.
Yeah. No, I'm not fearful because they would blow themselves up as well. So that's not really what they want. They're not ready yet to do so. One of their escapism was to go to a different planet. So when we had this whole what's it called,
Thing about Mars, Elon
Mars,
Musk, and
what was it called? Forgot now the name of this.
SpaceX.
That's it.
That's gone quiet, hasn't it? Has it?
No, do you know what? Elon Musk is pretty big on the planet still. He's still trying to do like the Skynet thing and connect everything in the like. You know, he just took over Twitter. He now calls it X.
Oh right, I didn't know he'd done that. Okay.
Yeah. Twitter no longer exists the way it was. It's completely his now.
If it's really in
Oh well, if you ask me, he's a living cyborg. I don't know what he is. It's just like
There's something really weird looking about that book,
There's
isn't
something
there?
like, I always wait and I'm thinking, someone please take the mask off. You know,
yeah.
It reminds me a bit of Freddy Krueger. You better cut that one out. I might get sued.
But there's something very unnatural about this guy, and I think also the position he's in is quite incredible. How they allow him to do this all, you know. So and people are not
just send up
questioning
all these
anything.
satellites into space. How did he get permission for that? Why? How was he allowed to do this?
Yeah.
Circling our planet.
We're just living in a most bizarre time at the moment.
I'd rather be living in the Truman Show. It makes more sense than this shit, you know. Seriously.
Yeah. I know there's still so many unanswered questions, and sometimes I wake up in the morning. I'm thinking, are we really? Is this maybe a simulation? You know, could that be? So, and maybe I'm just one of the what they call it avatars, you know, and someone else. You know, how would we know anyway if that is so manipulated?
I tend to go through life now thinking that this is all very unreal. I feel like I'm playing a part, and I'm not quite. I don't know what. I don't know my lines, but it all just, there is a feeling of surrealism about all this.
It is, but you know what is really real is that if you meet someone who's on your wavelengths and also is awake and knows about those things, the beauty of it is that you connect on a very deep soul level, and people are connecting from the heart, you know, and that power, that energy, you cannot beat that. There's nothing.
So we should thank them for that, because it has sorted the wheat from the chaff, the whole COVID thing, hasn't it? And it means that people like us have come together when we probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
If not, but we came here for this. We all came here for this, didn't we? So I suppose we shouldn't be so surprised by it all.
Yeah, exactly.
And there must be, I know that they are extremely annoyed about us still going on and still taking our position and holding our position. So because they thought that they could just kind of push us all aside, you know, and go through with their little master plan.
Oh, let's really get them riled up.
Unfortunately, it didn't happen. And we are stronger than ever before. And that's something which they really don't like to see. But we are so many now against a few, and we're just going to push them gently out. And that's what we're going to do.
Oh, gently?
And your product, Alex, is helping the Great Awakening.
I think it really does. It really does. It's amazing. When I first tasted it, I just burst into tears. It was.
Oh, I love it. Like Angie said earlier, I absolutely love.
I could
the
drink a
taste
whole bottle of it. It's nice.
I know I could as well. We're gonna have to start doing it in 2-litre bottles, aren't we?
Oh, seriously, you are.
2-litre bottles.
Well, that's why I thought that we come up with a slightly stronger concentration, so that you have to take less, but it has the new stuff. It's incredible. So we upped the dosage of the monoatomic gold, which is incredible for your body anyway. Yes. So it really is a difference. And we're using the spring, the red spring from Glastonbury, the water.
Right, okay.
As well as...
Oh, well, I know that spring. From what I'm aware of in Glastonbury, is it just like at the bottom of the road where the Thor is? And it's like... There's the masculine and the feminine. It runs on the whole world.
That's right.
Not where the tour is. Yeah. Did you
The
say?
tour, yeah, the tour.
Yeah.
And it's a very small little road. I went there 2 years ago, a very small road, and apparently the feminine energy of water for the whole planet ends on that, and then on the other side of the pavement is the masculine. And so I had like my masculine and feminine buckets. So I was like, yeah, I'm balanced, baby.
That's the best way of doing it. Fill half up with the white spring, and the other one is the red
With
spring.
the red spring. Yeah.
That's the best.
Incredible.
Yeah. It's really amazing. So so we used it in there because there's a lot of iron, of course, in the red spring.
Yeah.
And it was a huge difference when we took the first samples, and it made the whole thing so much stronger, and spiritually as well. It just blew us away. It was really amazing.
Glastonbury is like the heart of spirituality, isn't it? So
I think if I'm right, it's also the throat chakra of the planet. If I'm
Yeah.
right, the planet has chakras. I mean, I'm sure there's a whole lot of people have gone there for all different kind of rituals. You know, like there was the chalice there as well, and I went in it naked, and I like lied in it, and apparently it's where Mary Magdalene poured the blood of Jesus. I don't know if you're aware of that as well. And it's very powerful. And I just thought to myself, damn though, like I wouldn't want to be here 2 o'clock with a load of weird middle class white men. I would be a bit scared. You know, shit.
you better not go at 2 o'clock next time if I.
Well, it's an amazing place. I mean, that's where we met.
We met in Glastonbury
20 years ago.
19 years ago. Yeah.
And it's a very spiritual place. It has actually went through quite a few changes. When I was there in the 90s, early 90s, when I arrived and I stayed
He
there.
had a shop there.
Yeah, I had a shop there as well. So
Wow.
I did a lot of things. So
selling his sculptures, he used to make these fat little bubbas, these little goddess sculptures with big bellies and massive boobs.
I love everything. Everything to do with earth is for me is just my kind of thing. So and when I was there from 92 to 99, and then I moved to what's it called?
Scotland.
First to Cornwall, to not Pendeen, Boscastle, Tintagel. That's the one.
He lived in Tintagel, yeah.
Yes, and I went there actually. Did you really?
In the 1600s.
Yes, amazing place, really amazing. I went there especially for the eclipse, the solar eclipse. So that was really incredible. I was drawn to go to, everybody went to the St. Michael's line and everything. I was drawn to a housing estate.
Yeah.
A housing estate near Levant. You know the story of Levant? Levant is an old mine. And there was a terrible mining accident
100 years ago.
100 years ago, exactly.
This Levant mine near Pendeen, near St. Just.
And there's an amazing connection between
another
Levant.
Sacrifice.
That was a sacrifice.
There was 100 guys died. Miners died.
They're all drowned. Yeah. So there is a connection from that Levant to the peninsula in Samaria, which is also called Levant.
I always thought, why is this mine called Levant in the middle in Cornwall? Because Levant in my mind was connected to Arabic countries. So why?
Levante, as in the mist.
It's where the sun. It's Levant. Is it where the sun sets or sun rises? Sunset. I can't remember. I can't remember which.
It's definitely connected to the Sumerian land.
Yeah.
So, and interestingly, before I even knew about the history of that place, I was drawn there, and not because of the mine, but there was this feeling that something needed to heal. And while everybody was kind of on the top of the hill, and St. Michael's Mountain on the other side of Cornwall, I decided to go on that side. And because it didn't have much, there wasn't any what's it called, internet as such. It kind of existed, but there was still very little information to draw out in that time in terms of information to do with the solar eclipse. However,
it was the 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah. So what then happened is that I followed my intuition, and I ended up in a housing estate. So I knocked on someone's door because I could see a well in the garden, a really old stone well, and I said, and before I knocked, the door opened and this family came out and she said, "Oh, we are just on the way out. to watch the solar eclipse. And I said, would you mind us going into a garden and sitting where the well is? And she said, oh no, just go and help yourself. So we went through the garden gate and we went down to the well, which was in their garden. And it was an incredibly old well. And the water was beautiful. It was a really old stone well. And guess what? We were the first to get the shadow from the eclipse. It was exactly at that point. So that was amazing. That was amazing.
Always follow your gut.
So I wasn't interested in any ancient site or anything as such, but it drew me to that particular
It was more
point.
about the position than
Yeah. So, but that again, you know, there was so many housing estates are built on ancient sites as well, stone circles, you name it.
Yeah, we've been having this conversation. I think and they've landmarked all of them.
Yeah.
Like very obscure statues.
Yeah.
In the middle of council estates, but it's to landmark it for them, not us.
Yeah, exactly.
Having this conversation, that's what I believe they've done. I do.
Yeah.
You believe what? Sorry.
They've tried to hide the history of where they've built these houses estates on, just like Alex said. And I put statues to landmark them for them.
Yeah.
We've got the lost history, but they landmark them so they can relate that landmark going back to their books that they don't want us to see.
Exactly. Well, just look at the native Indians. You know, when I was in Arizona, I visited the Hopi reservation, which sadly now is not inhabited anymore. So I was at the last wedding which ever took place there. I was invited there, but the point was that many of the native Indians get put onto different land because usually on their homeland are resources which are interesting for the government. So what they do then is they push them out,
so they steal it from
and they very often have pipelines. There was a really famous story, was BlackRock, where they put the pipeline through their reservation just 2 years ago.
That wasn't long ago. That was just a couple of years ago. Yes. Was it BlackRock?
BlackRock are just one of the worst companies ever to exist, ever. Yeah, they crashed crypto last year. They're just evil, very smart people, man. Yeah.
Oh, they're one of the four, so they're definitely have a lot of control about anything and everything we're using. It's not just one product; it's numerous products. It's everything which makes our life, in terms of consumerism. Everything which we can buy is provided by those companies.
Yeah.
So they hold complete control. It's like, look at Nestle. So I mean, how evil can you be?
Yeah. Destroyed Africa. Literally.
Exactly. Absolutely. Take their water away so that it doesn't leave any clean water for any local people to drink, so and they're just left with the byproduct, with the toxic water. So it's just completely evil. And that's the thing what people need to look into as well. They need to boycott these kind of companies, because so long they're being sponsored, they will be still around for the next 100 years, but people need to be aware of what's going on. And not only that they're corrupt and destroying the planet, they're also poisoning every single person on this planet with their products. There's nothing good in this product, Look at Coca-Cola. It's literally burning holes into your bloody gut system, so it's just
a toilet cleaner.
Oh, it's just absolutely evil, the stuff they're coming up with, and make people addicted to it.
Well, all fizzy drinks, all carbonated drinks are poisonous.
And now the best thing, the joke is that they're promoting vegan food in supermarkets through this highly toxic processed plant food.
Plant-based.
I think a lot of it's like some weird human test lab shit. This like Bill Gates Beyond Meat stuff. I'm like, do you know what? I'd rather have that slaughtered cow, man. Like, I don't know what is in that shit though,
No, but when they say plant-based, I think what they mean is made in a plant. In a factory.
I fucking love that. Yeah, plant-based. A nuclear plant, like
Yeah, we bought once the sausages, and
I don't know why I did it.
We didn't eat them, but we fried them, and then we cut into them, and there was like plastic fibers in them.
There's plastic fiber.
You couldn't pull it apart. It was like plastic.
Yeah, man.
Tiny, very, very fine, pieces of plastic in there. There's nothing else. I suppose that's supposed to simulate
meat.
The meat, yeah, but I mean, why
Yeah.
would you eat that? Why would you cut that into that and think that looks
If you want
good?
to eat meat, eat a steak. Eat something which comes from a good source. A source, a kind source.
Grass fed,
grass fed, and yeah.
Or stick to vegetables. Why do you have to eat this fake meat? If you're a vegetarian, why are you eating fake meat anyway?
Well, that's another thing, yeah. Like, I'll have a fake bacon and egg sandwich. It's like, you kind of haven't. You've missed the point there,
I think, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's quite incredible how they get us, every time. And it's still last night. I came back quite late because I was working quite late. So it was almost midnight, about 11:30 or so, and there was a queue, McDonald's, right in the middle of the night. I didn't even know that people would eat that stuff in such extent, even in the middle of the night. That I never seen anything like it. And then the queue was kind of going all around, onto the road. And I thought, wow.
It's not a mixture of like, people, whenever you're tipsy, all you want really is junk food. You want something just like, in Brixton at nighttime, 2 a.m, just it's just KFC or McDonald's, and just people lining up,
Yeah.
See, when I were a lass, they were at fish and chip shop.
Which is not better.
At least it's better.
But this is all part of the plan, See, that's where all the Freemason stuff, all this has still to do with that, because they are keeping us sick, so that the pharmaceutical companies are still making their money. So it's all connected. Everything is connected.
Everything, yeah.
And people really need to see not just like some sad, lonely, rich guys, doing some rituals. It's a lot more than that. It's a huge network.
They control every element of our lives. It's really a case of knowing it about it and stepping out of it, isn't it?
And it's
and also admitting it. Like, when you admit, okay, I'm in a sense like everything around me, even the things that I go to a lot of meetings and people are like, I'm really grateful for my iPhone, and I think to myself,
no,
are you grateful for the children that died in Africa to mine that specific mineral for the iPhone? Like, we have to admit, at least just admit that we're, in a sense, we're all products of this satanic system.
I'm using an iPad, of course, I am aware of it.
Yeah.
But that is unfortunately the dependency which they pushed us into.
Yeah, we've become lazy. Yeah.
So we have been all existing before this stuff.
So
we are communicating without those technologies, It's just not so convenient. But we had to go actually through the effort to visit people. If we wanted to talk, we either had to pick up the phone or we had to go and actually see people. But now everything is just...
Now you just send a love heart, and like, if you don't reply to the love heart, you're a bitch. And why are you not like, it's like, whoa, like they've basically, what they've done is they've made our communication to about 6 seconds. And they did this very smartly through like YouTube videos and Vine and all these different apps where suddenly to communicate, it was okay to only share emojis. Yeah, especially my generation. It's like I'll send a big message to someone and they reply with a smiley face, and I'm like, fucking hell, man. Like, it's really smart how they've desensitized us and made us dumb,
Yeah, they have done this.
I mean, the technology that they used was very clever. They used the bandits from Vegas. That is the same technology as the scrolling. So the same.
Also, you see the cherry and the grapes and everything.
Yeah. So the fruit machines, it's same thing for your brain. So that's why I'm being so hooked on it. And it's in the where the GABA receptors are, which is unfortunately the central for our addictions, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we get so hooked on it, because we're all creatures of habit. It only takes three times to get used to something, So
I think 3 times to form a habit, and it takes a lot longer to break a habit. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
I read a book called The Rise of Addictive Technology, and they've literally got like camps of people to figure out the exact font and color for an app and everything, so that basically they can, and they'll test us as well. They have like test dummies, and they want the hit to be more than if heroin, opiums were going through us. Like they need the same psychology to happen in our head.
It's this endorphin fix, isn't it?
I have it. I have something called zero box syndrome. I know I have it. So like, if my email says there's like 3 emails, I literally feel a bit of a weight on my energy until I've cleared that email. And I'm trying to train myself now to kind of just be okay with having loads of unopened emails and being okay with that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
always okay. I've got 789 unopened emails. You'd probably have a panic attack, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me. You see, I was 33 till my first mobile phone because they didn't come out then. So it's like we're not. But then I see myself, especially since I got this horrible iPhone, because I had a Nokia brick until last year.
Yeah.
So I wasn't used to it. But now I find myself scrolling down and watching reels.
Oh,
And like checking the weather in another country. You're never going to meet. Like...
Going to Google Earth for some reason. I don't know why. And then you find you can't sleep because your brain is so awake. You can't switch off.
Exactly. There's so many people who are suffering from sleep deprivation. And that is really down to the LED lights, you know.
The blue light. It's the blue light. Yeah. Your brain basically thinks it's the sun rising at lunchtime. And so your brain starts to activate. It's fucking crazy.
I know, but see, this is all part of it. They are paying this kind of, it's not just the Freemasons, it's like the whole group of these kind of orders who came up with this ingenious plan to keep us all occupied and hooked, you know.
Yes.
And to
keep us
that's why I'm
distracted.
saying it's great to be aware of and kind of expose them. But until people are really starting to boycott those kind of things and hit them where it hurts, and that's where money is. So long as they have money, they will have power. Now they do know that, and that's why they're now kind of switching the whole monetary system, you see. So that's why they're offering people very soon these credits where people get just paid basically for just existing. So that people don't necessarily have to go to work anymore. So they will have a fund coming in each month.
Like universal credit.
Like a universal credit. So they're sitting in their little smart homes and they will sit in their little smart villages or smart cities, you know, and they will have
their prison camps.
Yes, and it will all happen, you know. So if people don't wake up now and see which way it's going, then this will unfortunately be the reality probably in the next 10 years.
Well, there's these little smart developments popping up all over Cornwall, all the coastal properties, all the nice little cottages, which have been lived in by the locals down here for centuries, are all being bought up, mostly by people from London, but mostly by very wealthy people. And they're buying them up, they're empty all year round, and all the locals have to move inland to these smart developments. And we know what those are all about. They are basically prison camps.
My dad has told me this really pretty much 40 years ago. He said there is this plan in place, and this is exactly where they want us to be. So this is a total control. You know, this has been in the making for a very long time.
We've been waiting for this to happen for a long time, though.
I think we should end on that note, Aaron.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I just love what you just said, Alex, about how your father basically prepared you for everything we're experiencing now. 40 blood clot years ago. Wow.
You can't get over that, can you?
You know how many times I got called a complete crazy person when I talked about it 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. You know, I mean,
I even called him crazy.
She even thought I was crazy.
We have another here.
I was telling her about what they're going to do to isolate us.
I was quite late to the party. I was like nearly 40 when I woke up.
Yeah, but then especially over the last few years, you know, Vivian then started to realize, wow, you know, so it's all coming true. So yeah.
Well, guys, just thank you so much. I'm
incredible.
The most incredible call. Like, I've been addicted the entire time, and to be able to basically, it's like you're a scholar of information. You're a lecturer of this, and for me to be able to sit here and ask you anything is such a pleasure. I've got a million other questions, but it would be like 12 o'clock tonight. I want to talk about Black Freemasons, all these different things, but it's you're incredible. So thank you.
You have to all come to Glastonbury. You have to come to Cornwall.
I know we must come. We will come. It is actually my favourite part of this country. So
we can meet up in Glastonbury as well. That would be cool.
Claim it back. Well, it's actually, you know, talking of energies.
It's come back.
It's
really lovely there again.
People are coming back to
well, that's good to hear.
I like we've been going once a month for the last about 5 or 6 months now, and we've not been this month, and I'm feeling a bit. Well, no, we did go to Glastonbury for the show. We had the stall for the Aquan, which was amazing, I burst into tears when I saw the stall all set up with all the bottles and the cream and banners and everything. I just burst into tears. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Yeah, we had a good talk. It was amazing.
It was
Yeah,
really
we had
good.
such nice
It was
people. in the
beautiful,
audience.
beautiful souls came.
We all hugged, and it was the whole energy. It was,
Are two amazing people.
You truly are.
you are too.
You are all
We
amazing.
love you all to bits.
Thank you so much for what you're doing, you
And
girls.
thank you, Indigo.
Thanks, Indigo. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, King and Queen. Thank you so much.
You are awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
We
See
will.
you.
All right, guys. Have a beautiful
Right.
evening.
Beautiful loves.
Bye.
Mwah. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.